I am being viciously attacked with lies and smears. I think it's a disgrace, and I say that, and I say that. They're making me out to be a very mean, bad kind of a guy, and that's not me. What the hell is going on? They're sneaky, dirty rats. Really not a bad person, by the way. The American dream is dead. We're dying. We're dying. I never said I'm a perfect person, nor pretended to be someone that I'm not. Anyone who knows me knows these words don't reflect who I am. The media is so dishonest and so corrupt, and the pile-on is so amazing. The whole thing is one big fix. One big fix. It's one big ugly lie. It's one big fix. The press can't write the kind of things they write, which are lies, lies, lies. Stories of fabrications and false. They write lies, they write false stories. They tell they're false, it makes no difference. And frankly, our country is going to hell. I've always been thin-skinned. The tone is such hatred. I've been thin-skinned from day one. The tone is such hatred. I don't have thin skin. I have very strong, very thick skin. And I don't call it thin-skinned. I'm angry. I'm very angry. What do you have to lose by trying, Trump? What do you have to lose? Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose?
Wasn't that nice?
Subscribe to
Oh my
Vicar
goodness gracious. That is one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. And I don't know if that's the new one or the old one, but that's the funny one. And it's British. It's like, what? You got to lose for voting Donald Trump. I mean, it's just so ridiculous. Like, the people that made that too, I'm guessing, they're not big fans, because there's another one they did where it shows his tweets, and they do an emo song to the tweets, and it's kind of along the same vein. It's like him belly aching. He's talking about the fix is in, but then he won. I mean, it's against Trump. The whole, I'm saying it Britisher before we get anybody in here, which today there will be no one that would go this route. But the whole 4D chess, I never bought into the 4D chess thing. I just thought he was a really gruff, straightforward businessman, that had an agenda that sounded to like it lined up with mine pretty well. Some of those things are still true, but the 4D chess, man.
Yeah, the idea that he is basically always, 7 moves ahead, and anything that ever happens is actually due to his having provoked it.
His stump speech was, what the hell do you have to lose by voting Donald Trump?
Well, I mean, in that regard, it was apt. If basically if your opponent is Hillary Clinton, then effectively, yes, your slogan could well be, what have you got to lose? Basically, effectively, you could put a donkey up with an appropriate rosette on, and it would be a better alternative.
Well, somebody that the right hates very much, Michael Moore, who I don't hate. Roger and me was great. I walked the streets that are in that movie, but he ran a ficus bush against I don't remember who it was, somewhere in Connecticut or something. He ran and the ficus bush won.
What is a ficus bush? It's
just a freaking plant, mate. It's a pot. Ficus would usually go in your yard.
Was it on fire and issuing the voice of God?
No. In fact, other people have done funny stuff like this, Britisher. In fact,
do I at least get brownie points for the biblical reference?
Oh, that was wonderful.
Nothing whatsoever.
Well, I'm the religious kind. No, I'm still sore over you not liking one of my not one of my memes 10 memes I make yesterday. 10 memes I make.
You do know that the more you mention that, the less likely I'll ever be.
Sure. I don't think I'll ever see it. I'm not soliciting a like at this point. In fact, I don't want your like, mate. Take your like and have a cup of tea with it.
Oh yeah, no, I was a bit late because I was I first had a bit of a ding dong on Twitter, and because I dared intervene into a Sargon tweet. Well, not a Sargon tweet. Someone tweeted at Sargon, and I kind of asked them whether they were still sane. And of course, that's not at all the question to ask. And thereafter, they tried to impress me with their academic language, and they only ever made it worse. But yeah, I kind of was in that conversation, and then after that, I saw.
How did I miss that?
It was basically capitalism created global warming.
Well, I just don't know how I missed the conversation. I check your Twitter from time to time. I'm not in it. If you remember, God save him, and if you're out there in the chat, I haven't even looked yet. Clinton's a great guy, but remember in that after thing, he's talking about like lists and stuff and putting dingers on and whatever. You know, I like you, Britt. You know, you're one of my 198 odd people I follow. You're one of 15 that I'm really following. The rest I don't know why they're there. I guess they're the ambiguous other.
They're people who took your interest once upon a time, and since then you've kind of lost.
No. In most cases, the 15 are people, and some of those 15 they've taken my interest and lost it. But I'm talking about the rest, the vast other. No, they never took my interest. They just followed me at one time, and there was a time where I would just follow, and then I got this. Look, I don't want to get all off into that. I'm going to make an apology for you, Britisher, and for me, because I'm down now, and I'm going to get it down to probably 100 or less. If I don't follow you, it's because we have nothing in common. You know what I mean? It's not like this is social media. So I'm trying to look at it from the social point. So if I'm not on a list, or if I'm only on a list you're on, or if I don't follow you yet you follow me, no hard feelings. It's not like that. I'll freely give out my email. That can get clogged up. By the way, while I'm talking about this, if you want the Britisher to do something for you, i.e., follow you or make some boffo video that will promote you to the heavens, ask him and lay off me. I don't tell him what to do. In fact, as a matter of fact, you heard it. I was harassing him right here in front of the world and everybody about liking and he's not going to like my memes. So if I asked him to do a video for you, constant viewer, it would ruin your chances and wouldn't help you at all. So just leave me alone and ask him if you want.
Yes, you get a lot of harassment in that regard, don't you? An untoward amount in my mind, Brett. I would say it's more than I think is even reasonable. Because if it happened once a year, I'd be like, oh well, nothing. Once a month, I'd be like, huh. A couple times a week, that's where I'm at now. It's like, man, you know, really? I apologize.
No, don't you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start for anyone that can hear me, because that's where it obviously comes from. People see you here, which is, by the way, anybody that's watching, it's on my channel, but this is the Britisher in my show. It just happens to be on my channel at this point. Oh, I'm done with it, Brett. But yes, if you have any ideas or if you have any requests for the Britisher, just remember, he's an autonomous robot. And he will happily take your requests into consideration. If he doesn't answer,
that is as long as my paymasters as MI6 will allow it.
Oh man, we've had some MI6 style shit go on here, Brett, and I'll bring it up. I got to tweet this thing out to Amanda Wolfchild and Conscious Caracal. I'm not sure if Zero Cool's out there. If you are, man, I'm really trying my best to and he'll appreciate this more than anybody. I'm doing my best to keep it to 4 people on the panel, especially for the first hour. And since this is the return of Amanda Wolfchild, I'm going to send it out to her right at this moment. And Britt, I don't know if you had a chance, because look, I am working hard, Britisher and family, to provide people that are going to be on here with information that they can use in a variety of different ways. Some of those ways, because someone mentioned today, Britt, I just shoot out the show map. And at the bottom, I've always got a little note to you personally that I'm not going to ever say what they are. But if you get one of those, you'll see there's a little note. Yes, that little note at the bottom is not for you. But it's a lot to ask from your beloved Ogre to take something out or put something in for you specifically. So that whole thing is there to use however you want. And even if that is to pull up, you know, at the moment, you know, of time, like right now, if you come on to pull it up, I mean, that's better than, that's as good as it gets right there. I mean, it's time and you see what the topic's going to be. So blah, 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 Britisher. I feel like I got to explain stuff a lot, at least in the beginning. Later on, people will get it. There's only about 10 folks that I rotate. You know, it's always a big question. And no, honestly, there are 4 people that can claim the Monday show. Then the rest of the time, it's the Britisher and I. And we rotate these people, and we have our guests of honor, i.e. Amanda Wolfchild and Day is Dead at the top of the heap at that in that list. Oh, like I said, blah, blah, blah. Enough explaining, Brett. This lady just got, she calls the cops, right? Calls the police, Britisher.
Oh, this is this Australian lady that's been shot, is it?
Yeah, Diamond, Miss Diamond. Calls the cops. Help me. Something strange is going on in my alleyway. She's obviously the tough sort because she's out there in the alleyway. The police officer in the passenger side of the cruiser hears a loud noise, proceeds to draw his weapon, I'm assuming a 9mm Glock, fires his weapon, discharges his weapon out of the passenger side window of the cruiser, and kills the woman. The woman that called for help. Just killed her. Sight unseen, no. I mean, I'm just want to, and their body cams, by the way, Brett, happen to be turned off at the moment. I don't know what the hell or how things tie in or what this woman's family.
The body cameras always either happen to be turned off or they're somewhat defective or something else went wrong with them. One wouldn't be surprised whether their body cams might you know, basically be kind of serially defective. Unless it is basically in order to back them up when they were arresting somebody and need that evidence.
What? And it's so. Here's the messed up thing. They have. It's all messed up. Here to me is the height of something smells like fish. I'm trying to be very gracious, Bridger. This thing has got the back hairs up because I don't really care who the lady is or if it was a man or a bum or anybody. Called for help.
We never really know exactly what happened. I mean, something plausible might have happened.
Well, we know this happened.
It seems very far-fetched.
We know this happened. The police officer driving the car, I can't remember his name, but Mr. Mohammed is his first name, honest to goodness. Last name, some weird Muslim name too. He refused. The driver gave an interview. The man that shot and killed this woman refused to give a comment to an interview. Listen, Britt, if I shot somebody on my property with a weapon in their hand and my property under their arm, hell, their penis in my wife in the act of forced coitus with Mrs. Ogre, if I shot and killed that person, I would have to give a statement instantly. I would have to surrender my firearm so it could be checked with the ballistics that killed them. You see what I mean? And this police
basically,
officer,
when you say he refused to give an interview, he refused to give an interview to the police.
Yes, the investigators are looking into this, probably IA or a branch of the IA, Internal Affairs.
Okay, is he under arrest?
Well, what do you think should happen? The answer is no, but what do you think should happen? If I refuse to give, look, I'm now lawyering up equivalent of. In other words, they come to just ask me, hey, sir, this person looks like they were in forced coitus with Mrs. Ogre. You put 2 in body mass, they're dead. Would you give us a statement, a sworn statement, an affidavit? And I'm like, no, pig, I want my lawyer. I mean, at that point, don't they put the handcuffs on me?
I mean, it would sound as if, yes, you would be arrested. That basically, okay, you can have your lawyer, but we'll at least put you under arrest until such a time. And
all you people out there with the Castile shit, don't even bother posting. And when it comes
to not answering questions, I am perfectly in defense of that. I once saw a very, very good piece on YouTube, actually, by a lawyer who was teaching a class of legal students. It's something like 3/4 of an hour long, but it's just riveting.
This is for you, though, sir. This is a private citizen. We're not for a police officer to.
But it's like one of those. It's like one of those Jordan Peterson, lectures. and he's basically giving a lecture to class, and he explains why one should not basically answer questions prior to.
I understand that, brother. And look, I have been in contact with the police in my life in various situations. I always ask the same question. Number one, am I under arrest? First, I don't care what they're saying to me. Am I under arrest? If the answer is no, I say, am I free to leave? The answer that I've gotten when they want to like check me out is no, you're being detained because we're running an investigation you're involved in. That's what they'll come back. And I always then get my phone out and call my lawyer. And when my lawyers, I mean, this is so rare. I don't want to make it seem like that's happened to Ogre. So yes, but British, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a police officer that's a trained public servant that is there to protect us here in the United States, that has now killed someone because of a loud noise, that is refusing to say a mumbling word. And we at least agree. And hi, CC, I know you're there. This is something that when I was listening to Staggerson Jags last night, Brett, I'm all for the cops carrying guns, but I think I was tired. I've been working really hard, but I think I was even saying something to you on DM last night. I can't really.
Yes, if you remember, I replied to you saying, are you effectively saying that they're
not enough training and
too well armed and you know, too little trained, basically?
Well, wouldn't you? What do you think about that? So you said it so eloquently. I mean, don't you think in this case that's the case? He had undoubtedly a Glock 17.
Well, I think it has been highlighted time and again that basically very few police officers actually have much training. We all assume that they've got a lot of training.
Well, and here's the main training they have.
The figures are quite shocking with some of them. That, you know, they kind of once in a while, you know, once every blue moon, they have to turn up to the shooting range, and that's pretty much it.
But with the weapon, the psychological training of police officers in the United States is this: if you draw your weapon, no matter what, you put the bead on center mass and squeeze the trigger until the target is neutralized. That is the training. So even if they only go to and you got to understand the range, they're 15 to 50 feet away from the target. In real life, they're 5 feet away from the target. Like this person was maybe 10 feet away. You can go like this, point in that direction, turn your head and squeeze the trigger 3 times. You're going to tear them up with 9mm Hornady defense rounds, man. That'll just, anyway. The whole idea is this: they need to train them and cross train them. You use that vital word there, didn't you? The critical word. But when you said psychologically, and I think a hell of a lot more should be going into the psychology of this, because I think in that regard, this is a moment of extreme stress. They've got the gun out, and basically now there needs to be something to effectively restrain them rather than just release the stress. And listen, a taser gun that fires, Britisher, it fires at a tremendous velocity. It's made to go through a leather jacket. What I'm trying to say is, if they were trained first to draw that, not that they didn't have their sidearm, I don't mean that, but this is in the case of boom, ooh, we heard a loud noise. Yeah. Of course, now they may be getting sued by an Australian lady, that got tasered in her alley when she called for help. But wouldn't it be better that she sued them and they paid her $20 million and she is now bloody murdered?
Yeah, no, but one question I think also, and you don't read too much into this, because I know you will immediately jump down my throat going, no, we need our guns. That's not the point I'm driving at. From a perspective of American police, isn't it also that they perhaps are much more paranoid than, say, police here in Britain? That if they enter a possible crime scene where there might still be a perpetrator around, that they immediately assume, well, this person could be armed because there are so many guns around.
Britisher, if they took a cue from your police force, and I mean the police officers on the south side of Chicago, if the gangsters knew that the police officers were unarmed in their squad cars, Britt, and I don't mean unarmed, they had a taser gun like that. They have a billy club and pepper spray and handcuffs and backup and radios and everything else, and special units they could call in if need be. But if the gangs of South Chicago, Britisher, knew that the bobbies were out there, they wouldn't shoot them, mate. I'm telling you, they would still be shooting the shit out of each other. but they would give them that thing that you have related to me, you know, that the police here don't have. Because of course everybody assumes the cops are going to shoot people. Look what they just did to this unarmed lady calling for help.
Well, I mean, in that regard, the British police is fairly unique also in Europe. That we seem to have somehow managed to retain something. How long we will manage to retain it any further, we don't know. But we have managed to retain it until now, something which pretty much all the other police forces in Europe have lost. And mainly it is because they are all armed. That basically it's a much more sort of deadly game. They're all much more serious. Whereas here in Britain, nobody thinks twice about, you know, I mean, a 10-year-old child won't think twice of going up to a police officer and saying, excuse me, can you tell me the way to the railway station? That wouldn't necessarily happen in France because the policeman would be too intimidating. Just not merely because they're armed, but their entire bearing is completely different. Here it is much more still a community matter.
Yeah, and what fantasy world do I live in, Logical Lion? I mean, I'm just saying, Britisher, you can speak to this. You have seen in your realm the police walking unarmed and the police walking armed. You were taken back by the police being. What I'm trying to ask you, sir, if one of your local police officers in whatever town you live in around the world is to come into a situation where something is needed to be done, doesn't he carry a certain weight just because he is who he is?
Oh, very much so, yes. But one of the benefits, of course, of Britain is that there are very, very few handguns around. There are very few weapons around.
Knives, though, man.
Yes, true. And but the police wear stab-proof vests.
Yeah,
But when it comes to you saying that the gangs of Chicago, you know, wouldn't use weapons with the police, I'm not so sure.
Let me really clarify that super clear, man. British, let me make that crystal clear as water.
With unarmed officers, I think they might take advantage of that.
No, let me make that super duper clear. I said that these officers would have the ability to call in special forces if need be. Patrol units in cars, on bicycles, on foot, with billy clubs, stunts, phaser guns. And I'm not saying that one wouldn't get killed once in a while. They're doing that now. They just executed that lady in New York. I'm not saying it wouldn't happen, but let me make it crystal clear this way. That police officer here, and I don't, if this is the fantasy world that he was talking about I was living in, no, it's not fantasy world. Respect demands respect. And some of these kids that have grown up with no role model, Britisher, we were talking about this higher philosophy yesterday, you and I were, with the rest of our buddies here, yes, who all have computers and have the ability.
I think I can see where you're going here, that basically you're saying if you basically try and approach the situation with being a person of respect, as opposed to just trying to say, my gun is bigger than yours.
Yes.
Then you basically perhaps have got more of a chance of actually resolving a problem rather than escalating it. So in that regard, yes, there is more than likely some wisdom in what you say, yes. But as I say, given American gun culture, one would always have to take that with a pinch of salt. How easily it could be introduced, I don't know.
In our American gun culture,
I would be all for perhaps, you know, introducing one or two pilot projects and seeing whether it isn't possible in some areas to de-escalate matters by effectively taking some guns out of the equation, you know, and be that some of the guns of the police.
But statistics show, even, and I know there's liars, damn liars in statistics, so sorry to throw this at you, Brett, but here's the facts. In our American gun culture, where there's more guns, there's a town, I don't know if Cole Pile's out in the chat, but if he is, he'll probably correct me on this. I don't remember the name. But there's a town in Virginia. It might be West Virginia. If you live in that town, you have to own a firearm. They have the lowest rate of robbery of any kind. You name it. Home invasion. It doesn't happen.
That reminds me of Atlanta, wasn't it? That poisoning the well, they were telling us that if you own property, you have to own a gun.
And what I'm trying to tell you is this. In our culture, Britisher, If you look at cities like right now, Detroit, I told you the mayor has said, if you live in Detroit, I don't care if you're a felon, I don't care if you just got out of prison on parole. If you live in this city, you should be packing. And if you're not, if you are, our police officers will not, you know, if you're out selling crack, yes, they'll arrest you for the crack, but they'll just confiscate your gun and destroy that. We won't even mention it. Since they've been doing that, and now just your average grandma that has the money to go out and buy a $500 Glock 17 and put in her big purse she's got anyway, while she's going back, since now it's starting to be known that, yes, grandma, and in the, especially in the ghetto culture, I don't care if it's black or white, but it's predominantly black. In that culture, Brett, the females have such power. There's so many women right now buying arms in Detroit. When you increase the number of arms in our society, ever since the Old West, it's this American thing.
I must interrupt you there, because you know what I'm about to say. There was.
No, I don't.
You don't need guns. What old ladies need is a handbag. And they can even drive off jewelry robbers.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
London.
She had a brick in that handbag, mate. She hit that one guy on the head. I don't know what she had in it, but it knocked him silly.
But you do remember that clip, don't you? And,
oh, yeah.
I remember you saying if anybody had laid a hand on her, what would the result have been? And I sort of said, well, yeah, then they would have been in real trouble with the rest of the people around there.
Yeah, because there was enough eyes on that. If they would have turned around and done anything to that, probably a pensioner.
But, yeah, that's still. I still remember your reaction to seeing that one. You were pretty much hollering, weren't you? Because it was just beautiful. This little lady, and just for those people that who are watching and don't know what I'm talking about, there was this. It's somewhere on YouTube. I'm sure if you look long enough, you will find it. There was a jewelry robbery going on that a gang of robbers who had arrived on motorbikes were pretty much smashing the windows with hammers in order to get at the watches and the jewelry in the windows.
Broad daylight.
In broad daylight. So obviously they had made some kind of plan. They more than likely had an escape route and everything already organized. But what they hadn't reckoned on is that in the middle of this, suddenly an old lady would spot them, brandish her handbag, and come in swinging. And she just smashes these people. And they're driven off by her and start fleeing.
They don't get a bloody thing.
They fall over, everything goes wrong. It kind of turns into the Keystone Cops the moment they're trying to go. So for all their planning, for all their preparation, nobody had expected on the little old lady with a hand. Nobody had reckoned with the little old lady with a handbag, and it's just a beautiful thing to behold. So for anybody who hasn't actually seen that, by all means, go onto YouTube and look up little old lady handbag and jewelry robbery, and I am sure you'll get a good chuckle out of that.
Yeah, you know what, Conscious Caracal, I appreciate you giving us all this time for the British and I to conduct our affairs on our show, but you've been more than fair. I don't know if you have something to pipe in about this. I did get your tweet too, Caracal. We'll save that till the bottom of this hour, and I'll throw that in. What's up, brother? How was your adventure? Did you get some good nature clips that you can use for your videos?
Oh, yeah, no. We stayed at this place near Nelspruit, which is like a town in Mpumalanga, the top province of South Africa. And because the weather is so incredible there now, because I grew up in Cape Town, me and my friends, so we are not very... Our winters are cold and wet and stormy. But then if you drive up to the top of South Africa, Mpumalanga, their winter is mild with no rain. They get their rain in the summer. So their winter is just this dry yet very mild season. So then a lot of people from Cape Town at the bottom of South Africa for the June, July holidays go up to the top of South Africa so they can beat the bad weather. So that's what we did.
You know, there is something I need to ask Conscious Caracal, and that is, how did the caracal come by its name?
I actually don't know.
I'm just wondering from the actual, you know, the looking at the
scientific
word.
name is literally caracal.
Yes,
the Latin
but
scientific name,
just looking at it, because it's such a rare sort of concoction of sounds, and it just so happens that there was a Roman emperor called Caracalla.
Yes.
I just wonder whether there is any kind of connection there.
I'll look into that. Maybe
Or whether
I'll
I am
do some
just
research.
seeing something that doesn't exist.
I
Because
think I'm
it's such an
gonna.
unusual, it's such an unusual name, and
Mm.
for there to be an animal called Caracal and an emperor called Caracalla, you just sort of think, well, surely there must be some interrelation between that.
Yes, of course. No, maybe I'm gonna research that and make like a video on it.
Yes, yeah. If you look into Caracalla, you'll find out that, like many Roman emperors, he was a complete murderous bastard. But perhaps that's the connection. Who knows?
Maybe I shouldn't reference him as an inspiration then. In deepen, like, the lore.
Well, yeah. I mean, as far as I know, he began his career by killing his brother. So it's one of those very Roman sagas.
Here we go.
Yeah,
Here we go. I turn my head, and I've got everything's on, and I can hear, but
Yes,
I'm trying to
you
do.
walk away
My
for a
problem is I have to do
minute, and I'm talking about ancient Rome. I'm sorry, I apologize.
It was mentioned.
Wait,
No, and that's
I
fine.
just
It was just
listened
mentioned yesterday that the ogre will, because somebody was asking you questions in the chat yesterday, Brett. I don't even know if you've got it where you can see the chat, and people think that so you can't see the chat in the outside world, can you?
I very rarely actually I'm capable of seeing the chat, and it's the reason I do it is because I find it too distracting. I'm one of these people who, to use your example, I can't chew gum and walk at the same time.
Well, that's what I was just trying to do, you know. And even though I can hear what y'all are talking about, as soon as I go, okay, now I need to look at the chat, realize that, okay, Logical Lion's got a stick shoved up his ass, and he says the Britisher's wrong, and of course, the straight Sith male knows everything, and we're all stupid, and I've got to read what he said, and now Jay Damon's here, and we've got to pay attention to what he says, because also he's also intelligent, and his opinion is the end-all, be-all of life, as is Matt Barkley's, and I mean, it goes on and on and on from here. And when I do that, Britisher, you do it. What I'm trying to say is, I'm trying to make another apology for you, Brett. He's not ignoring you people. He's helping me with the show.
Apparently, because you just pointed me to it, I'm looking there, and it says Logical Lion. Caracal is Turkish for black ears.
Yeah, sometimes they're right.
Then came an invitation to read the effing chat. I'm sorry that my Turkish isn't as fluent as perhaps it should be in your mind.
What I just noticed while
Lion.
you guys were having that little flame war thing was that when I searched that emperor's name in Google and I checked his image, this is actually a meme. It's called Dystanius. You have to look at his face. Ogre, can you present that, please? Like, you'll see why he has that name.
Yeah, well, is it to you, or I can present you? What am I presenting? Oh, this thing you just said, I got it. Yeah. And you know what's funny, Brett, is while I'm presenting that, while I'm opening a new window, Logical Lion says, "Hey, Brett, Ogre makes fun of your accent when you're not around, like he's busting me, like I don't bust into, really, Mr. Ogre." While you're right here in front of me. I can
honestly say that I have heard Mr. Ogre do his Britisher impression quite a few times by now, so this is not really a secret habit of his.
Yeah, good luck, folks. There's nothing I do on air that I wouldn't do in front of Britisher. In fact, he's the only one present here or in the chat whose opinion really makes a difference to me. So there you go.
Look at the expression on his face.
Only if I do your voice imitation, then should you be insulted, because I suck at it.
Welcome,
this
Zero.
This is a meme called Dystanius. And you can see why if you look at his face. Like, you use it as a reaction.
You wonder whether that bust once upon a time stood next to a bust of his brother, Gaeta.
As you said, that Ogre zoomed in on the image in a sinister manner.
Yeah. Look at his eyes. They're all cross-eyed.
He looks a little cross-eyed in that.
Yeah, he's all cross-eyed at you.
Maybe he just finally watched Ghostbusters 2016 and says, "What is this?"
Okay, and Lord, I brung you two people in here to make the show better, not to just make it a fuck fest like I see on this live stream thing all the time. Yes, that is hilarious. Dystania. Is that what you said it was?
Dystanius.
But I brought you two and Amanda Wolfchild, but her well, it's one thing after another with Amanda. Her mom cut her bloody fingers off. And I won't go into too much detail. I'll ask her to talk a little bit about her mom's choices afterwards when she gets on, so I don't say things I shouldn't say for other people to hear. But she went through that. Her mom, I'm not sure if it was I think she said it was like a bloody butcher knife or what do you call it, meat cleaver. she chopped her bloody fingers off. They were able to sew them back on, though. There'd be no amputation. And then she got home to a child that now has a belly flu. That the Britishers dealing with the flu. And man, summertime flus, my goodness, they're the absolute worst. What was I talking about? Oh, on the topic of the police shooting this woman. Now that I have you two here, Conscious Caracal, and we know that you've been up there where it's nicer in the northern part of South Africa, which is huge, by the way. Looks like the tip of but when you compare South Africa with the United States, it's a huge chunk of land. Good that you had a great time. And Zero Cool, I can't even remember what you said, but it was probably irritating as usual. That's why we love you. What do y'all think about the cops shooting this? I mean, apparently these cops get a call. Police get a call. Lady needs help. She hears something going on in the alley. The cops get there. This is all we know. Cops get there. The two cops in a patrol car. The passenger side police officer, Mohammed something or other, pulls his pistol out because he hears a loud noise. Noor, yes, N-O-O-R. Pulls his pistol out and shoots this lady and kills her. And he will not now give a statement. His partner, the person driving, has, but he refused to give a statement. So that's where we're at right now with this thing. I just kind of want to know what y'all think about it. The British and I have kind of said that. But
well, since I am probably closer, just let me interject here real quick, please. I think Mr. Noor is in a world full of trouble. He is already under legal indictment, and he's under 3 prior additional investigations about things. And he is one of 9 people, I believe, this is in Minneapolis, Minnesota, I believe, because we were talking about this on Tree of Logic's live stream last night. We're having a pro-police live stream, which was great. And she brought this to my attention and said, well, you know, he didn't have, neither one of the police officers had their body cams on, which is the first problem. Secondly, I feel bad for the partner because I'm surprised he's not deaf, because the way that Noor shot his gun straight through the door, how you figured that one without either getting out of the car, assessing the situation, or rolling down the window. So that's that most other people would be fired if not put on disciplinary reprimand for that. And he shot a woman who was going back to Australia, who was probably about 5'5", blonde-haired, blue-eyed, all that good, all that stuff. And he is an incompetent police officer. Whether or not this is racially motivated, I couldn't tell you, but just knowing that he's got 3 indictments and he's under investigation for other stuff already, he is an incompetent police officer. And the mayor of that city, which he's in, which again, I believe is in Minneapolis, Minnesota, should be removing him, and she should apologize to the public for his stupidity. He took the life of a person who had nothing to do with the so-called crime that was supposed to be investigated, and he apparently couldn't shoot for anything. He is basically a disgrace to all the officers, male, female, regardless of what your skin tone is, that are serving the public trust. He needs to be removed. He needs to go to jail, and if he's on a visa, it needs revoked, and or he needs to leave. He's a disgrace.
Things like this are actually why I argue that police officers should be forced to carry a type of malpractice insurance like doctors.
Man, I've never not heard that before, but that's a very good idea. Hi, Amanda. It's been a long time.
Hi.
Good to have you.
Yes, sir. I've been out of town, and then my internet, I don't know what was wrong with it.
No,
I sent you pics to prove it.
And yeah, I seen that. I just was looking at that because I'm telling you, I'm not going to go into it again. I did before you got on, and people bust my balls. I'm not in the chat enough. I'm not in Twitter. I'm doing Twitter. I'm talking to y'all. I'm doing like 10 things. So everybody, give me a break. Not you, panel. Everybody here is nice, but you people out there, give me a fucking break. So Amanda, I'm glad you're here, but go on that thing because I've not heard that before. I might be behind my time. So police officers should have an insurance.
Yeah, like doctors carry, and it doesn't cost them very much, to start with. It's once they start doing things that you can prove, like they violate somebody's rights or they shoot somebody out a car window because they're jumpy, they could get charged. Their insurance goes up, and eventually they're uninsurable, and that bypasses the unions. They can no longer be hired because they're uninsurable, and it costs them money rather than the taxpayers.
I think that would be a fairly good idea. The problem, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. The problem is the second you try to enforce that, which if legislative state law alone could force that, let's just agree to disagree if you believe that or not. Legislative state law could basically say, since you are operating within our state, you are required to have this. I personally think that's a great idea. However, the second you do that, you try to enforce something which is common sense, because this is why we have driver's license insurance and we have insurance for malpractice suits for lawyers and doctors, is not because it's a fail-safe. It's the fact to hold somebody accountable that when you screw up bad enough, you're going to hit them in the pocketbook where it counts. The problem is you're going to have everybody on the opposite side open their mouths, try to find 1,500 different ways of, oh, that it's, you know, not the police responsibility or other officers should be held more accountable, when it's a thing across the board that it's for everybody to be held accountable. And you're going to get opposition basically crying wolf about whatever they think that needs to be cried about, instead of looking at the factual situations that, A, that this guy's a fuck up, and B, that stupid things do happen no matter who the police officer is, because life has stupid things happen. A devil's advocate would basically say you don't need it because reasons. And I would say they would probably say is because it's not the person's responsibility. That's why they have the labor unions, and they would try to be pro-labor. And that's honestly the only thing that I could think of when I say devil's advocate in regards to being in opposition of this, but that would be the ground floor where they would start. But I do agree with you. That's why we have insurance, and for the purposes of having insurance, to prevent stupid shit, which does happen, intentional or otherwise.
Can I propose something? Can I sort of come in here quickly, because I foresee one thing here, and that would be if you basically bring in such an insurance or such a requirement for such an insurance, it would effectively be understood that you would be reducing all the officers' pay by the amount that their insurance would be.
But you would be saving them. Oh, go ahead. I shouldn't.
So basically, you would more than likely then have to increase their pay by the amount that you would be reducing it by.
No.
In order to make this work.
They're in unions a lot of the case anyway, Britisher, so that may go up. But you know what I always spout off, so I'm going to spout it off right now. Personal responsibility. So in other words, it now would be known. And okay, if you're an acting police officer and this was to be enacted, fine, then you get some compensation to deal with your insurance. But if you're a newly acquired recruit, then it's known, like Amanda says, like, okay, what do you do when you're a doctor? You have to look. I am sick and tired of police agencies around the United States being sued because of some moron. Forget what his name sounds like, because you know me, Britisher. I want to pound on what his name is, but I'm trying not to do that. Because in lieu of that, I'll say, this man, not Minneapolis, is responsible for this heinous decision.
Exactly. And malpractice insurance would hold him more responsible. He would end up having to pay the damages and stuff, to an extent at least, better than it is now, where the taxpayer pays everything.
No, I fully understand the principle. It's a neat idea, but the problem I foresee there would be, as I say, would be paid. That basically, I understand what the Ogre is saying, that you could then say any new officers would basically have to kind of face it, but any existing officers would more than likely have to be paid. But that would mean that you would effectively provide all police officers around the nation with an increase of their wage of that amount. And in one go, that might actually prove quite crippling, if you know what I mean.
Well, I would say to get that increase in pay, existing officers would first have to submit themselves to psychological testing and stuff and make sure they're still fit to be existing officers.
Okay, I would argue that would, again, yet further increase the cost of it.
Okay, well, let me just put 2 cents in here, Britisher. I'm going to counter that respectively by saying, when I make X amount of dollars per month from my job, I still have to take out of my pocket, which is what a lot of malpractice insurance is basically taking out of your pocket in the long run. I have to take out of pocket to pay my life insurance and my car insurance and my house insurance. I'm not making less in the long run. I'm making what I'm making. I have to be personally responsible and accountable enough to pay my bills. And that's basically what this is, in a form of insurance.
Yes, but
so I'm not making less. I'm being responsible, saying, yes, I know I'm going
to... are not insurances that have suddenly been put upon you without prior agreement in order for you to execute your duties within your job.
Very true. I would just say that it's a personal issue. When I was 18, I chose to get a car when I was 16, and I knew that I was going to have to pay my own insurance when I was 18. So yes, I agree, not within the profession, but a lot of times insurance doesn't calculate for that, nor does it care. It wants you to basically pay a bill. But I do see both sides. But I'm going to have to go with Amanda on this, that yeah, psychological evaluations, which is what I've been calling for, which I've seen other police officers say, yeah, we need to have this every 6 months because this is a job we're getting pounded at, but we choose to do this job. But it's also like if you take insurance out of your home for work, or not, sorry, your work for your family when you work at Han Industries or some big company. That's how I view it. And
well, let's slow down here just a minute, folks, because Britisher for once agreed with me, Zero, and you can pick it right back up. It's the psychological aspect that's being overlooked. They psychologically train them thus: if you pull your weapon, aim center mass to your knowledge, and squeeze the trigger until the target is neutralized. I said that before. That's what they train them. But they don't train them, I mean, that if you hear a boom in the night when you've been called out, that you shouldn't jump like a girl that's seen a mouse with a broom. And that is why. And logical line, anybody out there that wants to say different, fine, but I'll give my reasons for saying thus. That is why I believe if Amanda Wolfchild can go out wherever she is, armed with only some knives, all 90 pounds of her, and do her thing, well, then you police officers should be able to do it with a taser gun that will drop a man that's got a gun. It don't matter if you hit them first, like if you had a gun, they're done, man. You know, billy club, hell, give them a butcher knife, give them a big old whatever. But the idea of the police being so armed that now they are building this mythos of the police that killed innocent black men, and yet they're perpetuating that because that narrative is backed up by this apparition of this well-armed policia with his accoutrement that is profound in every aspect. It's just there in your face. He's got, see what I mean?
I just thought we were on the insurance subtopic because I was.
Oh, we are. I'm sorry, okay, I got off on that because here's the problem.
I was just viewing it as like when people work at Han Industries in Iowa.
Stretching my vocabulary, man.
Yeah,
I was
pinpointing the fact of the two differences of insurance is the personal and the professional. In the professional realm, when you work for a place like Han Industries or Bandag or Bridgestone or even Apple or whatever, you get your insurance taken out and you still get your pay because you're still making X amount, and it works the way it works. So I don't view it as any different equation as of that. That's what I'm saying. Ultimately, it's getting taken out of your pay, like as if you worked in a factory and they take out your health insurance. And if people know more about insurance than I do, that's great. I just know I pay out of pocket and I regulate my budget. But I do know that my dad, when he was working for what he worked for, he had family health insurance. He still took home all of his pay after taxes because they took it out as part of a tax.
And I'm not saying it's like a perfect idea either. I'm sure people smarter than me are going to have to work it out better than that. But it's at least better than what we're doing now. The definition of insanity is redoing the same thing, expecting a different result. Let's just try something new.
Ogre, I just wanted to say that description you gave was beautiful.
Oh, sorry. And I'm getting some flack in different ways, but I did get off topic because yes, Amanda, there might be some people a lot smarter than us. I don't know where you heard that idea or got that idea or if you thought of it, but I would say this too. You take Philando Castile. Now, in his case, his insurance should go up. And even if he was a new recruit that didn't get subsidized, you see what I mean? Like I said before, wouldn't matter. Now, just as if I was a bad driver that got into an accident, don't mean I shouldn't drive. Yeah, I should still be a cop. But the Philando Castile thing, man, I watched that several times. Ooh.
I did think that up myself, but I've since seen much smarter people than me argue it better than I can even. So smarter people have come up with it too.
A little insurance don't hurt, though. And it's still voluntary. If you don't want to pay the insurance, don't be a police officer. I don't have to pay my car insurance. I just won't drive a Mercury.
Exactly. And that's kind of the point I was alluding to, is if you don't want to pay insurance, you're not being forced to, then they'll say that you are, but it's like, fine, don't be a police officer. If you don't have insurance to drive a car, be smart, don't drive a car. But ultimately, you take it out like they take it out when you do a normal job. You're still taking your take-home pay. It's just you're getting taxed a smidge more, and it does build up over time to protect your ass. Just like when you buy life insurance on your own to protect yourself for if you become incapacitated and you have to die, so that there are no medical bills left over.
Yeah, and look, we've been on this for 50 minutes thereabouts, and there's item 2 coming up very swiftly. And because I'm here for 2 hours a day tops, folks, and I'm leaving. I'm trying to do this regimented, as I said before, so I won't be late.
Like I said, it's my fault. I'm running late. I had a session to deal with.
Now, look, it was a series of things. I'm not going to go into that, but a series of things a day. I actually have, look, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 of us in here, and it always makes it a little tougher, because here's the fact: as a host, the Britisher and I, we have to consider that, you know, people need to speak, and then Amanda Wolfchild's here, who's a member of our crew. It goes into all that. So, but could we come to some consensus? This thing with this lady looks bad. We need to be issuing an apology to Australia as a whole. President Trump should be calling these parents and saying, you know, all of this should be happening right now, and this person should be held accountable for the actions that at this time, from what I see, it's a court of public opinion too, folks. I'm nobody. I'm just a fucking guy in a manhole with some guitars.
Officer Noor done fucked up, and he needs to be held accountable. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, let's do this. Since Zero said that, go to Amanda. Conscious Caracal, I already said my piece of British, and we'll move on to the next topic.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say, I want to see a serious murder investigation to go on here against this officer. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like he said, how was the driver not deafened by the gunshot? Just the way that they explain it doesn't make sense. So it needs to be looked into seriously. And why weren't any of the cameras on? That's why I say all citizens need to film police whenever they see them, for the protection of the officer and the citizen that they're talking to.
Yeah, in the Quad Cities, all officers are required to have their body cameras on the second they hit the car, and that doubles up and on the dash cam as well. So his coworker, he already admitted done fucked up, Amanda, and I completely agree. Why was there not about a cam? You know, it just goes to show that this Noor, he's an idiot, and that whole police department and the mayor needs to offer the apology. Mr. President Trump has bigger stuff on his plate. But I agree, Amanda, it's bullshit.
We're gonna
go have his camera on.
We're going to move to one of them, so we'll keep this in the order. So Conscious Caracal, let us know, and then Britisher, I'll move the hell on from this. We did 50 minutes, and I wasn't as good as I could have been passing it on, because, yeah, you sons of bitches out there in the chat, I'm trying to keep up with y'all too. So, Caracal, what do you think about this?
No, so for me, it's definitely, I'm a huge supporter of body cams on policemen at all times. Under no circumstances while the officer is on duty, may it be turned off. In terms of when he is not in like the police building or whatever, where that already has like surveillance. And then if a crime or an incident like this occurs and the body cam just happened to be off, then there should be a serious investigation. I think it's enough to prompt one.
Well, I think when it comes to there being a dead body, you have to have an investigation pretty much by default. I wouldn't really, you know, it more than likely was just an unfortunate expression of Amanda's, but I don't think we'd really need a murder investigation, because, I mean, clearly it wouldn't have been murder. The idea that, you know, the police officer would have waited just for the off chance to turn up at that house. So that he could...
I should have said
homicide then.
I don't want to say that he not premeditated murder.
Homicide. How about homicide? If you like that way of saying it better, homicide is the least. Right.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if, you know, I would basically look at it as some form of manslaughter, wouldn't you?
Manslaughter, homicide.
So
yeah,
in
that's
that
what I'm
regard,
also saying.
We've more than likely got, as I say, without. It's difficult. I mean, I haven't even seen the video clips that you people have, but by the sound of it, it does sound like a sort of an extraordinary act of incompetence rather than anything else. But I mean, nonetheless, someone ends up dead, so someone will have to be accountable for it. And it's you know, it seems therefore quite obvious that you will have to have an investigation in order to hold someone to account.
But don't assume that there will be one, because they're police officers. I mean, remember Kelly Thomas? They didn't really investigate. They just said he died because of complications of other things. It wasn't the...
Was that the rough ride guy, Kelly Thomas?
No, he is the homeless veteran who was beaten to death, and the whole thing is on camera by a police officer. begging for his father and his life.
Oh Lord, see, I'm slipping into it now too. And folks, listen, we got what we have now is we have 20 minutes apiece on these next 4 things. In fact, we don't have 20. We have 20 on 2 and then 10 on 1 and 10 on another. So we could probably go on a long time on this. We have all agreed on one thing: it stinks, and it's homicide. It's just like an impeachment, and I'm going to give it 30 seconds, 60 seconds before we move on. It's kind of like impeachment. Impeachment of a president doesn't mean the president's done anything wrong. It's an investigation into the president, because you can't go bloody arrest the president. He's got the secret, so you can't do it. You can't arrest the president. He's the commander in chief. He's got the Navy, Air Force, Army. So you impeach him and see if you have charge against him. In this case, a homicide investigation, or a manslaughter, as the British said, investigation, would suffice to me. But firing out the window in the dark when a woman has been, I don't care. I keep saying woman. I don't want to be a SJW, because a human being has called you to an incident to help them. Smack some investigation. That's all I'm going to say. And if he's under investigation for negligent homicide, hey, that doesn't mean he's guilty, but he should be investigated. So here we go. I got this, the number 2 thing that I had. If I think most people in the chat, in the panel here, should have gotten this. And it's all you need to pay attention to is the thing after 2. Forget about the link unless you want to look at it. It says House bill includes funds for just 28 miles of Trump border wall. Donald Trump, build the wall. I remember watching Donald Trump's, because I watched every one of them, folks, for about 180 days. No kidding. Or had them on my earphones while I was working around the farm. I heard them every day. And he did one every day for about 5 days a week for 180 days. And while I was watching on YouTube, they would show this animation of Trump with a trowel building a wall. And he constantly said what? Who remembers what he said? Who was going to pay for the wall? Anybody remember?
Mexico.
Yeah, he said Mexico. And they were like, well, and people said, then how? And he talked about trade deficit. He talked about sending funds back and from America to there. I can't remember exactly the terminology on that, the nomenclature for that thing. He talked about a few things that made sense to me, but I don't at this point, apparently, and I'll open this up eventually, but it's costing millions of dollars per mile. And with billions of dollars of funding, they got 28 miles. Now, I remember, as I said, those rallies, and he did say that a lot of it wouldn't need to be a proper wall. It'd be fencing. It would be, a lot of it was natural wall because of the desert, and it just needed observation. It needed to have surveillance. This is bumming me out, and I'll leave it open to the panel now on this idea, because I'm a Trump supporter, don't get me wrong, but I'm a supporter of Trump because of what he said when he was running, and now that he became a shit-eating politician that I don't trust at all, because I hope that he implements some of those things. And at this moment, some of those things just aren't being implemented. So there you go.
I'm going to bow out of this.
I've just sort of breezed across this this article, and I'm just surprised at the lack of mention of the cost of solar panels.
Let's get Thunderfoot on it. Very good, Brett.
Dude, honestly, who thought he was going to build a wall like he was saying? I mean, it was a naive vision that he had, that he got into office and realized it's not going to work. But what they really need to focus on is border security in Texas. Like, we have whole towns that are in Texas that are controlled by Mexican drug cartels. So if they're going to put that money towards anything, border in Texas, for fuck's sake, please. People are dying every day. They're being kidnapped over into sex slavery in Mexico from Texas towns. It's cool. They own those towns. We don't care. The fuck?
I mean, there clearly seems to be a requirement for some sort of beefed up border security. I mean, if you remember way back when we had a live stream in which, do you remember I mentioned Hadrian's Wall in order to kind of to describe how the Romans kind of defended that particular perimeter, that it was a defense in depth. There were forts in front of the wall. There were forts along the wall. There were forts behind the wall. And effectively, that's how they defended the border. It was not just a simple wall drawn across. So, in essence, the real cost lies in manning the border You know, and basically you have to have people who can spot people coming across, and then you have to have other people who can intercept the people that come across, and they have to be quite heavily armed in case these are effectively gang members and they're all armed to the teeth. So in that regard, what you need is a sort of a defense in depth, but that costs a lot of money. And the question I asked at the time was, are the United States actually prepared to pay for such a defense? Because it's more the defense in depth that is required rather than just a wall or some kind of barrier. Because
yeah, well, we're talking about 8 months ago too that you were making that argument, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because if you just build a wall, then the only high-tech equipment that the opposition needs is a ladder. So,
yeah,
you know, the wall itself, even if you were to build a wall, wouldn't really solve the problem. It's the defense in depth of the border that's required.
Even Trump said it was a symbol, Britt. Go ahead, Amanda. I'm sorry.
Actually, it works with my other idea that I think that if people want to get social services like welfare and stuff like that, they should have to sign up to 2 years of unity service. You sign up for the National Guard, and the National Guard should never go overseas. And it should be mostly like kids that are doing it, you know, right before or fresh out of college. They're getting training and stuff like that, and they're defending the borders and working for their country. If you need it, you can easily sign up for social services like food stamps and stuff like that. Otherwise, you can't.
Man, we got a suggestion out here.
I wouldn't be a big fan of that idea.
I don't often do this, Britisher, but somebody out here in the chat, and you can look back, anybody out there, I'm not going to say their name, said the solution to this is we should nuke Mexico.
I see. But that would basically, if we follow that line of thinking, then the United States would be nuking quite a few places, wouldn't it?
Right?
Everybody, yes.
Look at all of all our problems.
Well, and I didn't mean to throw it off. I just, once in a while, somebody throws me a curveball, and we have a lot of people on the panel that need to speak. And I'm going to move on from this quickly because Zero's not even in on it. Conscious Caracal obviously couldn't give a shit less. And to me, what I want.
Well, can I just cut in quickly?
Please, go ahead, Brett. Yes. In fact, you can give the final. You and Amanda can give the final word on that.
Conscious Caracal might not be interested. I would just like to sort of draw a parallel between the US and South Africa in that case, because I believe South Africa has got a major immigration problem from places like Zimbabwe and whatever, hasn't it?
Yes, definitely. No.
So that, you know, I mean, what is being done from which one might learn any lessons, or, you know, what to avoid in terms of what's happening in South Africa?
Our border is literally just a crocodile-infested river. There's some parts don't even have a fence.
There we go. Import Nile crocodiles.
Holy shit! Now I got to ask, where you were camping, Caracal, were there crocodiles and whatnot around there where you spent holiday?
Yeah, right up there, the top of South Africa. Yeah.
Just before you go on some serious stuff, tell me just like the wildlife that was around you, and then crack on with the serious stuff. What kind of wildlife was surrounding you on holiday?
So close to where we were staying, there was this river, and I walked next to, usually at about 5 every day, I went for a walk there. And once I posted this video on Twitter where I just walk and I see this crocodile lie next to the river, like 3 or 4 meters from me, but there's like an electric fence between me and him. And just beyond him, there's like this group of hippos.
Oh, Lord.
So I just posted that video on Twitter. I was like, oh, look, I'm just walking around, and I just stumbled across like crocodiles and hippos. Hippos
are the dangers. But carry on. So what other kind of wildlife was surrounding you while you were there?
It was close to the Kruger National Park, which is like our biggest nature reserve. And we went in one day to go check out what animals we could see. And you drive around all day and you just hope for the best. And we actually saw quite a lot. We saw giraffes, elephants, rhinos. We didn't see any of the big cats, though, which was pretty disappointing. But the rest we also saw all the big types of antelope. It was a really nice experience and chance to get some very nice footage.
Okay, and we can carry on. I just wanted to know a little bit. I was imagining it's a little bit different than I had it very very poetical in my mind, because I imagined Caracal out there with this lovely lass in a tent, Teddy Roosevelt style on safari, with a flintlock, rifle to protect himself.
Was he wearing a pith helmet?
Pith helmet, of course. He was. And he's out there, filming and of course slaying the lion and the, all of these things. But that's close. And so I want to carry on too, because I'll get off. To me, the great Lakota said that man's heart away from nature becomes hard. And I've quoted that on this channel 100 times. And you remind me that you're much younger than me, I believe, Caracal. And you remind me that there's still youth out there that knows that on their holidays, yeah, you can go to New York, or you can go to where you're from. You can go to Million City, Sun City. You can go anywhere you want, do what you want. But you choose to go and get this recharge from, okay, that's it. I'm not going to go all Alex Jones on you.
You got to take that chance to get back into nature and to just unwind. It's the best antidepressant there is.
Okay, and I did promise to let these two wrap this thing up, and that's good of you, dude. It did do something for you, right? For your spirit.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel just, as you said, fully charged again and ready to face the urban environment once again.
Proud to know you. Oh yeah. So what the hell were we talking about?
Some itty bitty little piece of wall that
Trump
wants to build.
In the chat, even Logical Lion said that yes, it's starting to look like Trump is turning into what it was with the Obama. Because Britisher, I listened to Obama. I voted for him once.
I did too.
When he ran against McCain, there was no way. I voted for Romney. But he's like a Michigan boy in some weird, weird Mormon kind of way. Anyway, but so I did vote for Romney, but I voted for Obama, and it was done. And now Trump is turning out to be the Trump card is just the deuce. You like that? The deuce, like, taking the deuce.
No, but every president does that. Like, everybody gets disappointed every time, but every president does that.
Britisher, you will like one of my memes, dude.
One day it will happen.
Sorry, Amanda. Go ahead.
It's just, they're all super naive to begin with. They don't really know what being president is all about, and they think they can affect all this that they want to, and we all buy into it. And
we had a guest stream last night, Amanda Wolfchild, where Clinton came to our channel and hosted a stream of his own. Just used our channel, and Kid Rock is running for senator.
I've heard. That's gonna be hilarious.
Oh, Clint is like tweeting out, and I'm not going to now say one way or the other. I said my opinion last night, so I'll just say Kid Rock is running. He's got like T-shirts, vote for Kid Rock, and it looks like they're really going to do that. He's going to do that.
That's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, well, that was the second thing. Do y'all care about this any more than we've already mentioned? The 28 miles.
I think we've squeezed about as much.
John McCain.
I think.
Not only now, they're pairing John McCain, the story of his hematoma over his eye. They are now parlaying that twofold. It's now gone from using it for a reason to not vote on this healthcare bill that, as Rand Paul has mentioned, should just be voted no and repeal and replace what he said. They're parlaying into not only couldn't they vote because his wee hematoma over his eye, but now did anybody see the Comey thing? I watched the whole thing live, and now they're parlaying that into saying the weird stuff, because when McCain was on, something was up. They're saying that the if not term limits, if you've got to blame a little bit of blood, a hematoma over your eye on your crazy senior moment during the Comey investigation, and then you're using your medical woes because you're old, not because you just skinned your knee, playing racquetball, or broke, twist your ankle playing racquetball, but now it's because you're old, you're 80. That's why I put it on here, folks. John McCain they're using this to say, okay, now not only couldn't we vote, but now this is why he was acting crazy. John McCain, go the hell away.
If you watch that video I sent you a while back, that guy actually has a pretty solid theory that it is John McCain that now before the Republicans had nominated their nominee, they had the debates and they kind of gathered counter information on their opponents. And then when they get their nominee, they kind of just get rid of the information that they tried to use to win the debates and the race. But the theory, this guy's theory, is that McCain took that information, that research that they did on each other, and he gave it to the Democrats, and then they used a lot of it now in what's coming out now of all the pseudo scandals that they try to break every week.
Yeah, no, good points. You're not even American. Sometimes I wonder how you and the British y'all come on from, not even that it's because England, yeah, we're a lot the same. I guess South Africa is a lot the same too. But I wonder how is it y'all know so much about our shit.
They pay more attention.
John McCain needs to go away.
It's because you people never stop talking about it.
Well, I'm just going to, that's my point though, Britishers. I'm not going to stop talking about this. I'm with Razor Fist. John McCain needs to go away. And Razor Fist, man, answer me. Say no if you don't want to come on. Just say something. I won't send too many more, and then I'll just feel weird. And you will too, you bastard. You'll lay down one night and you'll say to yourself, I should have got back with the Ogre. He was an all right chap. So anyway, let's move on. So backing Razor Fist, this guy, man, look, why don't can an MP be an MP forever, Britisher?
Yes.
Oh, there's no term limit.
I think
How do you feel about that?
We have people who are pretty much you know, sort of mummies while they're still sitting there. I mean, I think the most famous example of that was what was his name? Edward Heath, who was, and we have this expression, the father of the house, who is basically the oldest member. And of course, the feminists have, of course, now since introduced the mother of the house, just because it had to be. And Edward Heath, who was the former prime minister, who was prime minister before Wilson and then Thatcher, I believe, he was just endless. And yes, it was quite obvious that he would have to die before he was no longer MP, if you know what I mean.
Well, how do you feel about that, though?
Well, I think as long as they've still got their faculties.
No, but I mean, then let's assume then that they're in their dotage now. They're blaming glitches. They're blaming senior moments due to them being in
Actually, they're not. No, because if you think of it, just hear me out. Over here, Diane Abbott. If you remember when you mentioned McCain with his eye surgery, I mentioned to you the other day the Brexit flu, which was Diane Abbott's moment when clearly on a vote on Brexit, on which she was expected to vote a certain way according to the Labour Party, but she didn't want to, she suddenly started feeling unwell. And the newspapers the next day called it the Brexit flu, that basically it prevented her attending the vote because miraculously half an hour or so before the vote, she started feeling unwell and needed to leave. This then kind of went even further, whereby she had some spectacular moments in interviews in which she just didn't have any figures. I mean, given that she was supposed to be the shadow Home Secretary and she was supposed to be sort of informed about the Labour policies on what were their views on police numbers and things like that, it was just embarrassing. I mean, she had absolutely cringe-worthy moments on radio and on television. That later then was explained away. Basically, first they took her out of the last campaign because she was making such a mess of it that she suddenly, toward the end, was phased out. This was later explained away by, oh, well, you see, she's got diabetes. And that was then used after that as the explanation for all her embarrassments. Or that was all due to the fact that her blood sugars had dropped or something like that. So McCain's explanation here is actually almost 100% lifted from the Diane Abbott solution. And in her case, it is not that she is some kind of octogenarian. So these excuses are used even for people who are not of age, so to speak. So in that regard, I think McCain would more than likely be using these sort of excuses, even if he weren't of advanced age.
Well, that may be true, but I still think that we should have term limits set to. I don't think one person should be just running the country their entire freaking lives. They're disconnected from the next generation entirely, and they don't even care at that point. They only care about the lobbyists.
Okay,
Well, and nobody wants to admit that they're slipping either, Amanda. You know what I mean?
I would agree with you. I mean, I can see the beauty of term limits. I would put forward, as devil's advocate here, what about the issue of experience? Does experience count for something? That if you have years of experience in this field, that you might be able to bring something to the table that a complete novice might not.
That's what political science is for. Now, let me counter that with asking you, do you guys have lobbyists over in the UK?
Yes, sadly we do.
Do you know how much of a pain in the ass they are? In America, the two biggest banes to our political system and thus affecting American life is the word filibuster and lobbyist. That is the big mess of the cog that we have. And if you know what a pain in the ass lobbyists are like, then you would probably understand why I'm about to say kill all lobbyists.
Okay, but I'm still not quite sure what political science has to do with the experience side. Are you saying that rather than having experience in the political field, all politicians should be by default be drawn from academics who have studied political sciences?
No,
no, that's basically where we get the starting point to understand and study politics in America is through political science. Of course, academics does not supplement life experience or actual experience in the field, but that's also why we train people as per se in the medic field, and we have them do hands-on studies so that if they go out and they try to save somebody's life, they're not going to fuck it up as bad as possible.
Okay, but in order to go ahead, Amanda.
I was gonna say, once you're past that age, you've passed your term limits, you have all this life experience and things, you still want to use it to affect the world, that's when you should retire into teaching these things to the younger generations that are going to come up and do these things.
Yeah, be a consultant.
But I mean, you know, before we were sort of saying that Trump may have perhaps lacked some experience of politics in making some of those promises he did, and then realizing only afterwards that he couldn't actually get them through. So isn't that in a way a kind of argument for people having political experience in that regard, that they have done these things before and therefore have more of a knowledge of how things work?
Yeah, but that's why usually we expect somebody to go through the system and have, been a smaller politician before they become a larger politician. Like, you do want them to have some age and experience to be in this position, but you don't want them to be old and they've been in it forever and they are like 87 or 92 and they are still your congressman or your president or something.
Okay. If you're restricting it to that sort of officialdom, would that also count for other officialdom? I mean, would it, for example, also count for the Supreme Court? I mean, if you can be too old to be a congressman, can you be too old to be a member of the Supreme Court?
Yeah, we have retirement ages for most jobs. Like, why don't we for political office?
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just wondering whether, you would kind of extend this to all things. I mean, would you also, given that Trump and Hillary Clinton were effectively the oldest two candidates ever to register, would that have really disqualified them from the start for actually standing for the presidency because they were simply too old?
I think they should have been disqualified from the start for the fact that there's serious evidence that throughout their entire lives, they've just been killing people.
Well, yes, but what I mean is, if you understand my point, that if you basically say John McCain is too old for what he's doing and whatever, where exactly would be the cutoff point? And are there different cutoff points for different offices? So, in that regard, would you really want someone entering potentially his 8-year term of office at 70?
There would have to be cutoff points. That's kind of like when we have judges in our counties in America they're oftentimes they've been lawyers because they've been on the other side of the fence. They've gone to law school. They've had the hands-on experience as non-paid interns. Then they've started on starter cases, and they've gone in the professions they've gone in, so that when they become actual judges on the bench, they have the life experience, and that can range anywhere between a person being in their late 40s to early 50s when they become judges on the bench, not because they're just fresh out of law school or because they are too old. That's the way that they do things for judges for the reasons. And this is the same application that should be applied for people that are taking over the seats in the House and the Congress and the Senate. And after a while, judges in America are asked to step down because of their age, not because they're impractical. It's because, well, life and nature does take its course, and there have been judges that have had things that, because they've been too old, have criminal cases and civil cases redone, thrown out, or tried again because of said natural aging processes.
And, you would kind of have to look at everything on a little bit of a case-by-case basis. Like, if someone was able to run at a certain age and convince people, hey, I'm still, fit for this office, and everybody votes for them and everybody agrees this person can still do this office, then let them do it. But I would say a doctor should keep an eye on them and stuff and make sure, hey, their health isn't affecting their decisions. This office isn't affecting their health, because a lot of stress, it could affect them as well.
Well, yes, but wouldn't you then basically, I mean, when you say it's a case-by-case basis, wouldn't it rather have to be pretty much a blanket? Because otherwise it becomes a popularity contest again.
That's true. I mean, you would have to put some, blanket laws. I like to look at things more on a case-by-case basis, because I think everybody's
we've just had an election in which a woman stood who was falling over in public, and yet, millions remain convinced that she was fit for office.
Yeah, I know. Right? That was insanity. That's true.
So that's what I mean. In that regard, yes, perhaps saying, it's a case-by-case basis, because if it's a case-by-case basis, someone like Hillary Clinton could never be ruled out.
Yes,
and yet
you're right.
She seems to be a clear example of someone who, I'm sorry, dear, but you simply can't stand for office. You're not in a fit condition to do so.
That's a very good point, Britt.
I'm saying you're right. For all of society, it should be, these are just the strict lines.
Well, that was very sexist how you said that, though, Britisher. I'm sorry, dear. Like that love and that.
I come from a country in which people, in some parts of the world, address each other as.
You have to let go of your patriarchal views and your desire to use sexist words like pet and love.
Yes, I know. We all have to learn from Sadiq Khan and Transport of London. Yes.
Admit publicly that you're a sexist bastard and you want all women to die and be your sex slaves.
Dude,
I am a sexist bastard, and I want all women to die and be my sex slaves. I'm
Southern, so I call people sweetheart.
That went awry. You were supposed to say no, sir, no.
But I'm Southern, so I call people sweetheart.
They'll clip that out, Britt. They will clip that little section out. Some of your haters, because you got them.
I thought I would be contrarian and do the opposite of what you expected.
I can't let you say that out loud constantly, man. They will clip that out, Brett. They will clip that out. And they will have you saying, because that was, anyway, carry on.
The hilarious part is the way you patriarchally keep interrupting me, trying to say that it's okay.
Sorry, what was that you were saying?
Patriarchally calling me dear.
I was mansplaining too, because Amanda's here and she ain't said like 10 words today.
No, I'm just kidding. I don't give a fuck.
No, it's good to have you, girl. You, especially on the first topic and all of them anyway. We often we feel like the Britisher and I, when you're not here, especially when we have a guest on, that it's like your spirit is here because it never ceases. Somebody, if you're not present, will say something about male circumcision, kind of foreskins, or molesting children. That kind of thing will come up whether or not you're here.
Take it to the crazy places.
Anyway,
with women making the first tools and stuff.
To sort of draw attention to your list, we've got Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes.
I am not particularly familiar with. I know she has got some kind of long-standing feud with.
Well, y'all won't be able to hear me, Brett, but I'll give you a 34-second thing that's not mine. I think this is fair. This is brought to you by the Ogre and the Britisher, by way of fair use. I certainly hope, you money-grubbing bastards. I think I can play this. But when I do this, as soon as I'm done, when I click this next thing, you won't be able to hear me, but I'll do this as quickly as I can, and we'll all get caught up on this next story.
It's no secret that Rosie O'Donnell and Donald Trump don't get along. But O'Donnell's promotion of an online game where you make the president jump off a cliff may have gone too far. O'Donnell
feels like I'm watching TMZ.
provided a link to it in a post. The game allows users to not only make Trump jump off a cliff, but also into a volcano and even into a T-Rex's mouth. Obviously, such a site came with a tremendous amount of backlash from conservatives, like Fox News host Sean Hannity, who wrote in his blog that the game was gross and sick. But no matter how you feel about the game, it should only add fuel to the O'Donnell-Trump feud.
All right,
I'm sorry, but that's hilarious.
Yeah, I hope I don't get sued. No, I don't want to get in any trouble. And man, I did. That was smooth coming back in for me. I'm getting used to this. It's tough, and I'm doing it like 10 things at once. But something is going on here. Should we be all up in arms?
No.
Oh, hell no.
Remember the beat up Anita Sarkeesian? It was on phones and stuff, and you could beat Anita.
Previously, they tried to argue that things that were kind of, the Kathy Griffin things and things like that were they were encouraging violence against Trump. Now, I don't think that this could possibly be seen as encouraging, people to throw Trump into the mouth of a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
No. They would have to get the giant eagles for that to take him to Mount Dune. Come on.
So I think they just pretty much have to concede that this is a joke, and it actually does make you chuckle. And you
got it, Zero. This is why you're here. This story is why you're here, brother.
Dude, in all honesty, as much as he publicly goes after Rosie O'Donnell all the time, fair play. I mean, come on. And they have on a joecartoon.com, you could put Obama in a blender and shit. So
yeah, exactly. We've been pulling shit and shenanigans and stunts like this since we've had the internet and video games with various presidents. It's fair game. People get TMZ. We know what's best for you. Get the fuck over it already. I personally think this is funny because now I can think of all these Lords of the Ring memes that I want, and I'm gonna.
Well, if we're basically agreed that this is just a joke and it's funny, and then, I mean, why are Fox News doing the outrage? Why are they
corporate media is dying? They've resorted to clickbait, and it doesn't matter whether it's Fox or CNN or ABC or whatever. The corporate media is something that is dying. This is like the death twitches of basically.
Yes, but I mean, is there an element that would want them to be outraged in order to reflect their outrage? I mean,
no.
is there an element in US society
this
will be outraged
for
at
clicks and for ratings?
Yeah, no. There are some. There's always some. There are some crazies who are going to be pissed. But there's always some. Nobody gives a fuck.
I just mean, is there a substantial, do we think there is a substantial part of the Trump camp that will be up in arms about this?
No,
they're not stupid.
Yeah, in the long run, they're not going to give a shit.
Yeah. Because then they would be exactly like CNN freaking out about that meme. Because then the people will point at them and say, but you're also just taking extreme measures because of something funny.
Yeah, but there's that group of folks that, because I'm pretty sure I just said, man, I can't believe there's this lady, Sullivan, I can't remember what her name is. I unfollowed her too, but she was like, she tweeted this thing of this guy in Walmart somewhere singing the Star Spangled Banner on a bet on the PA. And of course, everybody stopped, which I probably would have too. I would have. Here's the point. Don't fucking make me stop and look around because somebody's singing the Star Spangled Banner while I'm getting my tea, while I'm getting my groceries. Leave me the fuck alone. That was a grandstanding. And so I just wrote these words, 2 words, jackass. And then she was like, oh, I don't know why I follow you, but I can fix that and unfollow me. And then went on a ding dong with me on Twitter about, because man, finally, because she told me to, oh Lord, I don't want to go through the whole thing again. But here, that's what it's all about. There are going to be some people like this crazy woman that I don't know why I was following her either. I have no idea where it came from. But that are going to be out there that they'll be so appalled by this, and there's just inciting violence. It's just. But
let me tell you this: the executives at Fox News that decide to air this story as quickly as possible are not outraged. They are doing it because they are going to get views and clicks and shares. from people who are actually outraged, the people you are talking about now, the people that are really outraged. They are going to retweet it and put it on display for everyone to see.
You know, Conscious, you're bringing up a very good point. There's always people on both sides of the camp that are going to really go off the freaking deep end about this. And I'm sitting back looking at this like, oh, Judas Priest, having, known you guys for maybe 6 months or less and knowing what, memes and all this other fun stuff that I goof around on Twitter. If it's a flash game, if you take this shit seriously, no matter what side you're on, your priorities are so screwed up about your own life that you really need to go get some psychotherapy, because
exactly.
I personally can't take this.
Yes.
I can't take this shit seriously.
If you don't laugh at it at least a little bit, go get
exactly.
I
mean,
I
can't
couldn't
take
keep
it
my laughing.
seriously. It's just too damn funny.
Let him go on the rant for just a second. So, in
yeah.
other words, what is your mental problem if this kind of thing? If you can expound just for another minute or so, Zero.
Well, this is you remember you're talking to a guy who suffers from PTSD because of certain things, and and over the course of my lifetime, I've taken shit. If the whole I'll equate it to this. There are people that love Metallica and Megadeth so much that they fight over which is the better band. You can't do that shit. You have to grow up. Shut up, Megadeth.
Metallica.
But that's my point. That's my point. If you take this kind of shit so goddamn seriously, that it's what are you doing with your life that is so boring that you have to take a game mocking our president, which we've been mocking our presidents since we've had presidents in one form or another, that you can't focus. Well, you need therapy because you are so fucking bored with your life, or you're so entitled, or so privileged, or you're so overly opinionated that you can't take a fucking joke, or you have to take some asinine thing which in a day or two you're not even going to give a shit about so seriously to fuel the fire. It's just like I said, when in the 80s we had people, it was Megadeth versus Metallica, and there are people that still feud over this. And I'm like, I'm 40-some years old. I grew up in that era. In the long run, we realized how very small in the big picture of life it is, and it's not worth getting bent over shape.
If that didn't give you all fuel for the
thing
fire, I don't know what will. So in that vein, just carry on and order Amanda Wolfchild, and that was a really good spark.
Totally, it's Metallica, by the way. But anyway, yeah, it's a joke. And seriously, if you do go after her for this, they're just gonna turn around and start reading at you patriarchy, because Donald Trump, like I said, publicly makes fun of Rosie O'Donnell all the fucking time. It would make no sense to go after her. You have no feasible position to attack her for making a funny fucking joke, because you laughed at it. You did. That's all I got. Sorry. It's just a stupid fucking joke, and it's a dumb story, and it shouldn't exist.
He's such a big misogynist, he even calls Macron's wife beautiful and in good shape. They're fucking disgusting.
Oh, I'm not saying he's a misogynist for making fun of Rosie O'Donnell. He just don't like her. You make fun of people you don't like.
My tongue is thoroughly through my cheek with that statement.
I'm just saying. I don't know.
Have we lost everybody?
Stream Death, what's next? Right?
Yeah,
Is this better? Am I coming in louder? Is this good? I wanted to know fine tune is good, yeah?
Well, and I speak a lot, and I
You're
was
fine.
checking on some other stuff, so I'm giving everybody a chance to have their say and then some. This topic is something.
It's just Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm with Amanda. If you can't laugh at this shit, you have no fucking sense of humor. Get a fucking life, people.
Well, but I would go this far. So now that we're saying this, there seems to, the onus is always on the left for these tactics, it seems to me, in the popular ideal. But there was an Obama with the Shakespeare in the Park in New York. They've done that. They've done the sitting president. When they do Julius Caesar, Shakespeare in the Park in New York City, whatever the sitting president, and yeah, there was some weird things about it. I don't know why everybody's stabbing the Trump like Caesar was either black, male, or a female of some race, some color, whatever. I don't know why that is, and you could look into it, but you can look into the Obama thing. They had a guy that had the big ears. I mean, you could find it. They stabbed Obama. So I'm gonna quote the Britisher, because I was pressing him one day, and I was like, well, isn't it okay if one person finds it funny? And instead of me saying it, Britisher, when is a joke okay? How many people have to find it funny?
Absolutely nobody needs to find it funny. It's the simple fact is that it's just it was attempted as a joke. Therefore, that is justification within itself.
Let me say this: as soon as you're going to start playing comedy cop, people are just going to start making more of these jokes. Well, you're not going to make people stop.
If we start with comedy cop, then we end with Dankula.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
Because it's subjective.
That's what I was saying about the Kathy Griffin thing. I found it sick and twisted, but make whatever fucking joke you want.
But that's why I'm also on Sargon's side when it comes to that drama with him on that stream, where they had that dark comedy stream, and people and Thunderfoot fucking blew a gas because of that.
I'm totally.
I don't care. There's not that. I was actually debating another guy on Twitter the other day about this exact thing, because I posted a meme of Otto Warmbier. And he flipped off because he said, "Oh, it's disrespectful, and it's the body's not even cold." And I'm like, "Is there like a timer? Should I have to wait? Am I allowed to make jokes about Hitler because he died long enough ago, or should I even refrain from that? Should I ask the parents of the deceased permission to make a joke, a dark joke, but a joke that I'm allowed to make?"
But I was just thumbing through the Britishers' contract with myself and some other folks, and I just realized that someone mentioned Count Dankula. So I must say this: you've already given him your dollars. We know that. We appreciate that. Those of you listening, we all know that you've given, as the Britisher and I and the panel probably have, to Dankula's legal fund. But now we ask this: whether you pray, chant, or give burnt offerings to Yojo, do that thing for Count Dankula. Because in doing that thing for Count Dankula in his quest for veneration, for alleviation, for just acquittal in this insane legalistic matter that is before him right now, and in my opinion, before the world, just go ahead and do them things for him in the hopes that the right, the correct, the valiant, the good, the humanitarian verdict will be handed down, and he will be completely acquitted of any kind of crime. And I think, Britisher, now that I look back down here, I think that did I fulfill the contract? Will I get my 50 quid?
You forgot, pour one for the homies.
Okay, well, I want my 50 quid this month, because I think I just hit every button that I was supposed to here. I'll put this up now. Thank you, Britisher, for that endorsement opportunity that you gave me. And also,
if that is not the outcome, he will become a genuine meme martyr.
But I just, when you were saying,
there you go. That was my joke. That was my attempt at a pre-planned joke. How was that?
I was just saying, when you were saying chant, pray, whatever, you forgot pour one for the homies.
Oh, but I've been saying that. That's what I always say. I don't care if you pray, chant, or give burnt offerings to Yojo. Yojo is a vague reference to Moby Dick, where Queequeg has a little statue, and he gives burnt offerings to Yojo, and Ishmael, the narrator of the story, joins him because he decides that it wouldn't be very Christian to not join Yojo in this cannibalistic form of worship, because he would want Yojo to join him in his Presbyterian form of worship. And so that's like a weird reference for that.
A bit off topic, but I wanted to hear from you guys.
Oh, shit. What I just said was so off topic that you couldn't possibly beat that, brother. Go ahead.
So a few weeks ago, I watched this video of a guy. They found a book that was written in 1880 or something, 1870. The book's title is Baron Trump and His Marvelous Underground Adventures. So now it's got me reading.
I heard about that.
Fill me in. I've not heard a word about it. Fill me in.
Yeah, no. So there's this book that was written all the way back in the 1800s.
In other words, Donald Trump son.
Yeah. So in this book, his family are the Trumps, and Baron Trump is the son of this man, and the writer also writes like political. This is more like a lighthearted fantasy novel, but then this writer also writes political pieces on more serious political fiction on, for example, an emperor that's not liked by anyone in the establishment, a very Caesarian situation. And then I started reading up on synchronicity. Now, this idea that because we could possibly be living in a matrix, we're starting to see little glitches happening. And it's because the universe is sometimes recycles the ideas or is probably not 100% stable. So there will be little glitches and problems sometimes. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up.
So was
that's
this
interesting.
was this book written in English?
Yes.
Okay, so it was actually Trump. So it wouldn't be something like German Trumpf that we then translate
No,
into
this
Trump.
book was written in English. It's you could I looked it up. It's quite the big coincidence.
Was it written by someone calling himself Nostradamus?
I'm gonna look it up.
Or is everybody...
It's a quatrain, Brett, right? It's one of the quatrains. If you don't know Nostradamus, you don't know what the fuck I just said. Excuse my language. You don't know what I just said. A quatrain is like one of his things that he's like writing on a. The dude got a hold of something and just probably.
Here it is. It's Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Adventures, an actual book written in 1893 by a guy named Ingersoll Lockwood. In it, apparently, Baron Trump. Yeah. In it, apparently, Baron Trump goes through a hole in Russia that leads to Inner Earth. That's basically
Russia.
Oh,
okay.
Lord.
Now I believe everything. Yes, it's completely true.
Man,
yes.
Here it is. British are just wringing his. You said Russia. British wringing his hands right now.
So another thing that's also interesting.
We're gone off the rails.
So I started reading up on synchronicity, and you guys all know about like Kek and the connections that has like an Egyptian god, and the little Kek statue has like these hieroglyphs at the bottom, and if you look at it, it kind of looks like a guy's in front of a computer.
But you know where Kek
anyway,
really came
you know
from,
that's
right?
bullshit, right?
You know where Kek really.
Well, anyway, so there's this other song that was written in 1983 or 6 that basically predicts 4chan and online culture, which is also, if you just look at the lyrics, I posted it on Twitter the other day, like some of the lyrics that are very, very ominous. I'm just going to get a link, but you can discuss that so long.
Britisher, I need the good picture of you, the final touch of you, because as you see on screen before you, my British brother,
I like that.
this is fine. You can. I'm going to show some of my memes, and one of them actually tied into what was just being talked about. As I was looking for it, I came across this, and you'll notice that this is British, Britisher, and Britishist. Yes, sir, Britisher. It's got 34 likes. Did you like this one, Brett? Did you like that?
Oh yes, yeah, I gave him a like for that one. I thought that was quite
dirty
funny.
turncoat.
I wanted to ask you, what is your stance on Mogmentum?
Hang on a second. I've got you Benedict Arnold. You just absolute. I mean, I've put all this time, all this thought in these memes I'm doing. I send them to you, some of which I've sent to you before I even tweet them out to you on DM with respect and like, look at this, and this funny. And I'm trying so hard. It's Ogre, really, Mr. Ogre, you're shoehorning your ideas into this, and you can't force that on comedy, sir. It's absurd and it's not funny. Anyway, that one was funny. It's got 34 likes.
Hey, y'all are nuts, and I gotta run. I gotta go deal with my kids.
I just ran a man wolf child off with that one. Thanks,
no, you didn't. It's just I got an hour before hubby gets home, and like I said, my kiddo's getting over a stomach virus, so I gotta go deal with him and start dinner and stuff.
I will send you one Monday. We're gonna have Scott Pressler and the academic agent on the police state, which will be like 6 o'clock. So your time, I think it's 5 o'clock Central Standard Time.
I might be a little late, but I should be all right to be there.
Oh, good Lord, Amanda! As long as you're late, even within, because it's going to be academic agent first, and Scott Pressler coming in. Either one.
I'm always late, you know that.
Yeah, I don't really care about like the late thing because they'll be here for a little bit. Just be here; it'll be great.
All right.
Thanks, Mom.
Bye.
See you about. Take care.
I posted the lyrics in the side chat. Now, if you just read the first bit, you can already see where the connection is being made.
Oh man, I don't even. Do I have to read it? I'm kicked back right now. Look, what I did was I sacrificed the quality of my good blue Yeti
I just find it
with
interesting.
snowball so that I can do this stuff that I've been doing. Like get it out of my face and put it here. And Britisher, was I the one? Am I going loud and quiet? Was that?
No. I just I was
okay.
just referring to
learned it's
Zero
sensible.
because his microphone seemed to be quite a bit louder than everybody else's.
Oh man, it's Zero cool. He's fucking. He said he's like PSTD. He's
Oh,
angry at
shut
the
up.
world. He wants everybody to die. He's very curt.
I'm taking you out first.
Very. I ain't got no fucking problem with you, man. I'm just saying the facts. He's very curt. You're very curt. I'm not going to talk about him like he's not here. You're very curt.
I'm never here. What are you talking about?
And I don't think that you've got like a lapel. The last I knew, you had a lapel mic from Radio Shack.
No,
So-
I have a headset mic combo from Walmart.
Oh, so you upgraded since then, but
Oh, I've had that since I've started. In fact, that was one of the reasons. If I knew I was going to be doing this, I would buy a Logitech headphone mic set.
if I had never, this is the point, if I had never heard your voice and just seen some of your tweets and some of the things, because I go to ABL quite often and seen some of your mods, I would assume that you sounded exactly like you do.
I'm not sure what to say about that.
It's so incredibly hard to find
a
a quality microphone in South Africa, though. I had to look. This one isn't even. This is the best quality I could get in Cape Town. It's really hard finding equipment or electronic equipment that's actually what you need.
So here you go, Brett. In the last 15 minutes, Ma leaves. I call her Ma. I love Amanda Wolfchild. Her mother, who she said it on air. I'm not breaking anything. It's the fact. Who, in a lot of ways, abandoned her when she was very young and left her to take care of her siblings. But she was there, but doing her addiction thing. Has now whacked her bloody fingers off. Amanda goes to help this woman that wouldn't help her when she was but a wee little lass. I don't know. I don't want to say much more. I always get accused. Like yesterday, Britt, even on the stream that wasn't really ours. Thanks for coming too, by the way, on your day off. It was my day off too. Yeah, Amanda's a good girl. She's a good kid.
It was kind of an impromptu performance yesterday, wasn't it?
It wasn't. I thought that, and we can talk about it any time, but I know this. So far, 2 people have done it. And anybody listening now, or there's a 50-50 chance you're right. We've had 2 people come and host a stream. And, you know, we don't say anything, Britt. You don't say anything. But one was superb. One was good. One was palatable, and one was acerbic. That's all I'm going to say. And I thought, you know, and for that, yesterday was interesting. Shit, now I painted myself in a corner because I can't say nothing about yesterday. It would give away what I just said.
I have absolutely no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, that was so evasive. I'm working on my politics because Scott Pressler will be here. And it don't matter, Britisher. Here's the facts as we wind down. It's 15 minutes. I'm out of here like a fart in a windstorm. It's getting better and better, Britt. We have more and more people on that understand that we can make our even Zero cool. You got to give it to him. He don't come on with a bunch of MFers and whatnot. He drops the GD thing, but let's face it, because I'm a Christian, the GD thing I have to realize is not like dropping the F-bomb. It really isn't. And if you think it is, it's only because you have a dogma in your heart and you're not willing to let somebody say some words that aren't, and I don't want to go into that. Oh, so the point is we got like 15 minutes left. And Clint did good, man. He was so gracious. He's trying his best to get a formula down. And for anybody that don't like it, Britisher, you even tell me, you know, Mr. Ogre, you don't know what it takes to do the week that was. I have an inkling. No, I don't know what it is, but I have an inkling that it's a lot of work. And trying to get, you know, to Britt, he's so busy and it's like 10 minutes to show. He's not even, you know, he's busy. And so I don't know. And I'm busting his balls, to be honest. I've sent him like 5 tweets, like in DMs, like, oh my Lord, did you die? Am I going to be alone today? Oh, what was I saying?
I don't know. You started at some point and then somewhere sort of petered out eventually.
I'm going off. What I did was I had a coherent idea that I was sharing, and then I took a sidetrack and it like went 360 almost, and then did a 180, so it was going the opposite way. and then I was in my subconscious and just saying shit that I was thinking, but I didn't mean to say.
Well, you see, I mean, the one thing that we have to cling to is that, of course, it happens so rarely.
Oh no, it happens all the time. But Britisher, could we say this as we wrap it up? Because I want to bing back. We've dinged on. We had a good time. What I want to do is, because Zero, he reminds me of he's very focused on one issue. So Zero, if we've talked about something today, and I have a feeling it was the Rosie O'Donnell thing, if you want to put a last cap on that before I go off into my last diatribe and talk about the first story that we had on, and hopefully get the Britisher to wrap it up on that. Is there anything you got to say, Zero?
I would say in regards to the first subject, he needs to be tried on a manslaughter case and removed from the force, and the mayor of that city needs to hold accountability for allowing him to be on the force. And in regards to the last one, if you're taking that kind of shit way seriously, you need help. Because unlike a lot of other things, a video game or a video game representation of an idea is not worth, getting your spoon bent out of shape. But when it comes to as opposed to actual things like what Kathy Griffin did, which was just bad taste and stupid. Rosie O'Donnell does this to herself because she is such an attention whore, and as are a lot of her ilk. But Americans, if you're taking that particular thing with the video game too seriously, seek help, because people are still autonomous and have the capability of judging for themselves and making decisions of their own. And Doggy in the background, so cute.
That's awesome, bro. And I just wanted to give you a chance to
Doggy
pipe
in
up
the background, so cute.
Yeah, thanks. That's Lily Dog. She's pestering the shit out of me right now. I'm going to mute and tell her to lay the hell down. But I just wanted to give you a chance. Britisher, I guess here's the thing.
Okay.
Oh man, he just totally threw me off. I had a complete line of thought. You know what? You jinxed me, Britt. You were like, "Oh, you never do that, Mr. Ogre." Now I can't even think. I had just had a complete line of thought in my head and it just fluttered out like the blue bird of happiness, man. Just what the hell?
I mean, over here, one thing. I mean, I've had a very interesting day with a bit of a Twitter spat I had with some people who came in, who decided to announce that global warming.
Before you do this, may I do this?
Go ahead.
You did it. You just triggered it. Of everything, before I wrap it right up, I wanted to ask Britisher, and it had nothing to do that triggered what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to ask you, was there anything that since you just, because I always leave at the bottom of the show map, hey, Britt, if there's anything you want to change. So is there something today, leading into what you were just talking about, that happened that you would like to speak of, sir? No, do you ever want to say something? That was what I wanted to say, and it fluttered out of my head. It was driving me nuts. That was it.
With me, I mean, one of the reasons I was a bit incommunicado and I was a bit late and didn't reply to you when you were sending me direct messages was because I was involved in a bit of a Twitter spat, and that was because somebody had, I think, had a bit of a ding dong with Sargon and came out with the immortal line that basically capitalism had caused global warming. And when I then kind of interjected, I'm sorry, but I mean, are you serious? Are you really serious about that? I mean, hadn't it occurred to you that perhaps if you would want to blame it on, if you would want to sort of make the man-made global warming argument, that it was industrialization rather than capitalism? No, it was capitalism. When I then said, well, you may be aware that the Soviet Union kind of industrialized Russia. No, this was completely, I was talking complete nonsense. This was completely unacceptable.
I'm looking on your Twitter. I'm not seeing this, sir. Why am I not seeing this?
This person knew what they were talking about. In fact, it was this person, I believe, who actually claimed that they were an authority on this issue.
No, but Britisher, why don't I see this on your Twitter? I don't
know. Twitter sometimes plays games and you can't see things.
Okay,
I sometimes have that with other people. It was just wonderful that they came up with all sorts of, you know full well this kind of pseudo academic jargon that people come out with who have been perhaps to university that little bit too long. And there seemed to be, it seemed to be one of these unholy triads of three people operating in unison and always all liking each other's tweets as they're talking to you. So you kind of realize that you've got one person and two sidekicks here. But it was just bizarre how entirely indoctrinated these people have become.
Ogre, if you want to see it, you need to go to tweets and replies, not just tweets. There it is.
Okay, I'll look. That's probably my problem because I'm just on tweets. Yeah, so carry on, Britta, because I was still looking for that.
Eventually, they did something I believe that Vernaculus is also a big fan of, and that is they find a particular word or something like that. And
Lord, I'm looking. This was an ongoing thing for.
Yes, you may then disagree with the meaning. You may disagree that this word really has any meaning and isn't just sort of pseudo academic nonsense. And then they immediately focus in on this word, and then start telling you that you do not know English properly. And eventually they kind of end up saying, well, I don't need to listen to anything you say because you have zero credibility because you don't agree with this word. In my case, I believe it was the word ecocide. When I just went, I'm sorry, but this just sounds like, this just.
Did you start talking about capitalism? Is this with Ben King? Does that ring a bell?
Yes, precisely. This is the gentleman in question.
I'll catch up on
it. The reason I bring it up it was that bizarre that it was humorous. It was one of these cases where it's unwitting humor, where people are that wrapped up in their dogma, and they're that.
Oh, and they're pissed at you, Britt, because it's not like there's a lot of likes, but. Like
they're
Ben
not ferocious.
Keeps getting a like, and this Russ G. Lewis keeps getting a like, and you're like swinging out there with your Marmite nakedness, getting no likes.
Like his replies as well, so it shows up in their notifications again.
Well, no, it was just what you don't quite get when you see it afterwards is the kind of the instantaneousness of it.
Hey, do you mind if I share the link to the
by all means, whatever. But what it was you realized how ferocious, how angry they were at the vehemence, insofar as how quickly these things came back at you. That within seconds, and it was you marvel at how far this kind of dogma has taken people, and how kind of completely blind to reason they become.
Wow, you had some other people like Gen X, 4YZ plus animals. You had some folk in there just like.
Oh yes, and they fill. You may be familiar with that one clip of Jordan Peterson outside when he was trying to hold a speech and they were kind of shouting him down outside his college. And at one point, he's basically patiently trying to listen to some of these trans people talking to him. And at one point, he kind of clutches his head in both hands and just says, "You people are so full of jargon and rhetoric. You don't seem to realize that, people don't speak this way." And in this case, it was one of those moments where you sort of felt, I'm sorry, but nobody speaks in terminology like this. And I think, to my mind, it was one of those moments when I just sort of felt, yes, Jordan Peterson might be right. Sending people to university now may, in some cases, be doing them more harm than it does good.
Yeah, St. Peterson to me, and I sent you a link, but I think you were busy. He just gave a talk. It was about 2 hours and 20 minutes long, and he was using the Bible. I mean, Mrs. Ogre was in here, and I was like, because she was saying, "What is he, a preacher?" I was like, "No, Mrs. Ogre. He actually is. He studies these things, but what he was doing, he's building a foundation to show that with the Bible, you can easily make." Especially if you go by the last prophet of the Bible, Jesus was the end all be all, make a case for don't kill people for being gay, all these things. But with the Quran, I'm waiting for when he dribbles into this. You can't do that. But I call him St. Peterson, Brett, because the clip I remember is where he's trying to talk to these people about gender pronouns, the gender pronouns. Like, you know how I hate when you add a word. So pronouns. And they're like, oh, call me Z or this. And he's had his head down and he's waiting to give his side. They are yelling at him. One person spits at him. Spittle hits him, you know. And what a saint. You know me, Britt. You've heard
he has the patience of angels. I mean, one can tell that he can grow irritated at times.
Oh, he was furious when that was happening.
He never blows up. You know,
utter control.
He has himself under incredible control. Basically, so irritation will show, frustration will show, but you know, he won't actually explode.
Oh yeah, his posture, his head is down, his hand is, you know, his face.
It comes to those. I think when it comes to those pieces, I've not seen any of them, but I've seen him announce them sometimes on Twitter. That he, I think he's kind of trying to, kind of sort of use the symbolism within the Bible. So basically, he's not looking at it from a Christian perspective, the way I understand it. He's looking at the sort of allegories within the Bible.
House upon the sand. He went all Britisher. I'm going to tell you, if he would have put in for an evangelist, he would have done great, because he connected scriptures that I've heard and I've used. I'm a preacher. I've used them. He's good, man. He is good. And the idea that they're going to tell this guy that has studied the human condition and understands what it means when mob rules, that you have to call me Zier and Z and he and she, whatever, that you have to look at me and decide whether, whatever, say the right pronoun. Saint Peterson, because I go.
Well, it's when it comes to these pronouns, it once again just boils down to the everlasting law of the bully, that they just basically try and tell you what to do. They want you to effectively, you know, when they say jump, they want you to say how high.
How high.
And in that regard, this is just once again the same thing playing itself out. You must call me by this particular pronoun. Why? Yeah. Because I say so. That's really what it boils down to. And when it comes to Jordan Peterson, he is one of those people that's just simply squarely stood up and said, no, I won't do it.
Yeah, you got to love him for that one right there. Yeah, I spelled thirsty wrong. Shouldn't it have a U? I mean, if you sound it out. Hell, I couldn't say. If I talk like you, Britisher, like, yes, it would be YEARRRS. Yes. You dig what I'm saying, Brett? I mean, say it. Yes.
Yes.
Hey, we were talking about a certain topic. I won't say it again because we're not going to do it gratuitously, Brett. But you were, because of the topic we were talking about, you used words that human beings use that are in the English language. And you said something about a so-and-so in the wood pile. And then you said a certain color of brown. And, you know, Mrs. Ogre didn't believe it, Brett. I was like, yeah, we were talking about it. It was like, yeah, Brett, man. I was like, somebody's going to copy that stuff, man. I hope, you know, don't make a big debauch over it. And she was, I don't believe it. So I had to go and find it in the live stream, that section.
Well, you see, I think that I find it increasingly, you know, I find it incredibly annoying when you have a report on the news, for example, that in that particular case, there was a report on the BBC that this MP was in trouble for using a racist term.
Yeah.
And I just thought, well, I'm sorry, but this is grievously unfair because you're not telling us what she has said. So we are not being given the opportunity to make up our own minds as to whether we agree that this is racist or whether, you know, this shouldn't be said or any such thing. You are telling us that it's racist, but then you're refusing to tell us what it was because it's racist. So effectively, you know, we can't make up our own minds. Our judgment is rendered nil and void. And to my mind, that is the wrong way to go. Just because you may be talking about a subject and the subject involves the word nigger, then you still need to use the word nigger because Otherwise, you are basically then kind of
I ain't saying
putting you're putting words into other people's mouths, or
I ain't
you're
saying it.
insinuating things.
I don't care. I said it yesterday. I ain't saying it just because you did. I ain't saying it.
Well, yes, but in this case, it was actually it was a news item.
No, that's what I love
in-
about you, though, Brett. A lot of people, there's some people, their slogan is like, fuck censorship. And here on this channel, we actually do try to censor ourselves in the way that we would like to make it PG-13. I think we could all agree, to where a young child of 13, 14 years old with their parents' permission could listen to it, and it wouldn't be like gratuitously horrible. But you'll use a word like that. And then I know people that have that slogan, fuck censorship, but because I in my past have used that word, nigger, I said it, you know, all of a sudden I'm an evil racist. I'm no more racist than zero cool. I've heard you say, I think I heard you say that's queer, that's gay. I'm almost positive I had. You've made allusion to like something being homosexual, and I know you're not homophobic. Your fucking daughter, excuse my language, because this stuff makes me irate. And yes, I thought it was wonderful that you pointed out that I did not spell thirsty right. I think that was what sparked all this.
I do have to ask, given that you mentioned gay, whether any of you have seen the Dankula clip about veganism, where he then puts on screen veganism is gay.
Yeah.
Did you catch that?
Well,
And
you
did
sent that to me in DM. I watched that thing.
Did you catch the subsequent reaction? It was just beautiful that he was once again confronted by someone completely humorless.
You talking about down in his comments?
No, someone actually made a video in response to his video.
Oh, no, I need a link to that. I've not seen that.
When he replied to that, it kind of, I think the video that went up after that is Dankula is a rapist.
A rapist?
Yeah, no, it's just fantastic. As I say, that some people are so devoid of humor. They are so devoid of humor. They're just incapable of understanding.
Well, and he's the opposite of rapist. He's the guy. He is the guy. Dankula is the guy that, regardless of what you think of when you look at him, as I did when I first looked at him, the Britisher, Cabbage Patch Bastard, Tigerson, RPR, and every other British person that I know that I can't think of right now has schooled me in the fact that you cannot be a Glaswegian bouncer and be a sissy. You can't be both of those things. You can be a sissy and you can be a Glaswegian bouncer, but you cannot be both of those things at the same time. And so I know this, his job was to stop drunk morons from wreaking havoc on the people that were just buying pints in Glasgow. So, man, Dankula's a fucking stand-up guy.
Oh, it's just wonderful, but it's as I say, that particular exchange is just beautiful because you can really see that he is up against somebody who is kind of dogmatically vegan and is kind of looking for a reason to be angry with him. And eventually, you know, when he then puts out a reply, it ends up with the next video going up saying Dankula is a rapist. And it's just, I mean, you know, it was one of those moments where I literally had tears in my eyes watching it. I was laughing so hard, it was just ridiculous. But as I say, it is bizarre how the internet seems to bring out this level of dogma in some people.
Mm-hmm. They've always been in society, but the internet is just shining in. They've always been among us now, but with the internet, we're just shining a huge spotlight on them.
Yeah. Their voice becomes that much more
amplified.
Sort of amplified. Yeah, that was the word.
And hey, Brett, we're 8 minutes over, and I want to do a show Friday. So how much longer do I have with you, sir? Do I have a couple more minutes?
You know, I think we're pretty much sort of getting to the end, aren't we? We're kind of looking to wrap up.
Yeah, I'm going to definitely do the wrap up, but I kind of wanted to, well, I guess I already did it. I blew it. I wanted to talk to Caracal about his holiday. And the reason why is irrelevant. And another day I'll get into that, man, because it's just something else. I was going to open up like another can of worms if I could. No, but the fact of the matter is I think that it's good not only for myself, but for others that join, and for people that come and watch later, for not only for this thing that you're watching now to be regimented, but for it also to be predictable, and that it 2 hours seems like a good amount of time. Yeah, Alex Jones does 4 hours, but that 4th hour he's usually not there, and it's a debauch. And the 3rd hour usually is anyway. I mean, 2 hours is good to talk about anything. We talked about a few things a day. So let's stick with the program then, Britt, and let's do this. We'll start with Conscious Caracal, since he's just joining us. Go to Zero Cool, go to yourself, and then I'll put my final cherry on top. Don't matter what you got to say, boys. You that are joining the Britisher and I so graciously on our little crazy thing.
If I can just cut in, because I sort of thought I'd already kind of done my little spiel there. I was thinking that was in build up to our being finished. So strictly speaking, I've already used up my powder.
Fine then. So carry on, lads. If y'all are done too, I've got something for you, and I'll get the hell out of here.
I just want to quote with the tweet. I just want to end with the quote that I have pinned up at the top of my Twitter, and it's that the biggest threat to free speech isn't the government silencing us, but the masses of people actively silencing themselves. And we wish to encourage anyone that's listening now to always be aware of that, and to not silence themselves and be forced by public opinion to stay silent on whatever issue that you care about.
Zero Cool, you got anything left?
Never, ever sacrifice your liberties for any amount of security. Ever.
You sound like Benjamin Franklin, sir.
I just happen to believe in personal liberty quite a bit, and it's up to each and every one of us to be responsible with what we do with our inherent liberties that we have as American citizens.
Well, and before I start my diatribe, I just got to say, Britisher, I have unending gratitude for you, sir. I know more about, I think, your personal life than possibly anybody online. And I know from that knowledge, I glean the responsibility that you have and the things that you do in your day-to-day. And personally, I just have to say to you, sir, that I appreciate your time. I sometimes wonder, is he going to, show up today, or is one day, whatever it may be. But I appreciate every minute that you dedicate to this little crazy show that I'm trying to do. It means a lot to me. If there's ever a day you can't make it, but Lord have mercy, I mean, you were just ill. You remind me of myself, and it seems like when you can find a little bit of yourself in someone that you admire, it gives you that extra spark of admiration. And for me, that's what I have for you, because I'll be daggone, man. I know you were ill. I could hear it not only in your voice, but I don't think I'm hurting your ego to say you weren't hitting on all 8 cylinders. That's how my granddad.
I'll readily admit that, yes.
But you were there. You were there. And if you remember a long time ago, I can't even, because I was so ill at that time. It was about 4 or 5. Yeah, we were doing live streams. I was so sick that I was in the depths of drinking booze like it was water every day. And if you remember, I couldn't even drink beer. I was so sick. And I just admire that. And so now I'm going to do my diatribe. But also, that said, now that I really, in front of whoever's watching, whoever will watch later, said very publicly how I feel about the Britisher. You mean a lot to me, man. I really appreciate your work on this deal. It means a lot. I hope that not only myself, that other people appreciate that as much as I could. Now I'll toot my own horn. As much as I could come on here, and Caracal don't have to be here, Zero don't have to be here, I could talk for 5 hours. But you know what? That's just what I think. And it doesn't really, in the end, it wouldn't matter if there was 10,000 people or at the point right now 18 people watching. It would just be what I think. And there's a million places you can go. Go watch Rush Limbaugh. He'll give you that all day long. So here we go. Thank you so much, Zero, for being here. Conscious Caracal, I'm glad you're back. If you're listening or listen later, doppelganger, go choke on a cucumber and die. And that said, listen, we have to keep in the forefront of our minds our responsibility to society. When I think about the debacle in Minneapolis, hey, listen, if I have to give my testimony or my affidavit to the police when there is, as the Britisher said, a dead body there, well, then the police officer does too. If not, I want to see it in the newspaper, in the news, whatever it may be. I want to see it reported that he decided not to say anything and got a lawyer. Because that does tell us something. Does getting a lawyer mean you're guilty? No. But it does say that you don't want to. See, and he's just decided that he doesn't want to give a testimony. It makes me think about, and I'm going to try to go into all these things we talked about today in a little bit, a little certain way. It does make me think that we have people that are above reproach. They're above contradiction. They're above inquisition, if that word's acceptable. Like President Trump. Look, he said he was going to build a wall, build it tall. He said that Mexico's going to pay for it. Now I read this. House bill includes 28 miles for Donald Trump's wall. His House bill. Listen, you got to do what you say, Donald Trump, or you're going to lose me. If I lose subscribers over that, that's fine. Just like I lost that person following me because I said Dude Man was a jackass for yelling out the Star Spangled Banner in Walmart. There's a time and place for everything. And if you make certain promises and they are your platforms and you run on Make America Great Again and that you're the candidate that's not a politician, you're going to do thus and such, then do it. Let me just put it this way, as vulgar as I can be, in the vulgarity. Shit or get off the pot. And I'm tired of politicians and now Trump being the kind of person that can't at least have the decency or the dignity to come out and tell me now, well, I made you this promise ignorant of what my powers would be when I am where I am now. And I will not deliver on this promise. This is what I'm going to do in lieu of that promise. I would respect that more than what I'm getting from the man that I voted for twice and that I have supported since he came down the escalators in Trump Towers. John McCain, retire. I'm not going to say much about that. John McCain, just go away. And for the last thing here that will get me to the absolute wrap up. I was not offended when the app came out, beat up Anita Sarkeesian. There was one you could put her on your phone. You could boop, 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 you could hit her with your finger. It was like boom, boom, and she'd come all beat up. And she was crying, oh, this promotes domestic violence and the patriarchy. Of course, we can't, let's not, shall we forget the patriarchy, Britisher. Oh, Lord, you are the sovereign God of the patriarchy. So let's not forget that. I wasn't ruffled by that any more than Caracal Zero or Britisher was. I didn't give a shit about that. Not because I hate Anita Sarkeesian, which I do, but because I don't give a shit if they do it with Donald Trump. If all the things that Donald Trump has said about Rosie O'Donnell and vice versa, would anybody be shocked that she is now talking about a game where he runs and jumps off a cliff? If I was Rosie O'Donnell, God, thank you for not making me that. But if I was Rosie O'Donnell, I would rub it in his face any chance I got, just like Trump has done to her. So here's my absolute final thought. And yeah, I think, in the future, I'll probably pick one or two stories to comment on and then go to this. But I sure do appreciate it. I don't know how else to say it. I guess at my heart, I'm an old softy. I've had to be the boss in several businesses. Well, I say several, but 3 businesses. I moved furniture over the road for North American Van Lines, for United Van Lines, Sudeth. And I had to be the guy, that was like, it's 110 degrees. Fuck you, put the furniture on the truck. Oh, it's raining. Fuck you, put the furniture on the truck. Oh, your child died this morning. Fuck you, put the furniture on the truck. I had to be that guy for so long. Let me wrap this up. In the end, it comes down to this. And it sprung. This was my idea from the get when I made this show map today. And Amanda Wolfchild just clicked a switch with the idea that police officers should have a bit of insurance to guard them against them going at a bump in the night and killing some. I'm not sure she was an expat, Mrs. Diamond. Just killing her. Personal responsibility, folks, is the greatest thing in the world. I've done boner things. It's unfortunately, I would lie about it, maybe, but unfortunately, some of the boner things that I've done recently are in the public sphere. Most of you here know about them. I mean, what am I going to do? Stand up here and go, I have never in my life done anything that would be ill-taught, but nor have I ever broken any social norms. No, I can't do that. Lord have mercy on me. Here's the end. Donald Trump. Whether I lose every sub I have for saying this, take responsibility for the things that you haven't been doing that you promised Mrs. Ogre and myself that you would do. If you do that, if you don't fulfill every promise that you made, because Lord knows, I understand that politicians make promises just like it rains some days and it's sunny others. It's just what happens. But if you would explain to me and to the American people, not the crazies that will defend, not the crazies, that not the 25% that still don't even believe that Donald Trump had a meeting with Veselnitskaya, even though he said he did. Not those people, because they're as crazy as Antifa. If you would just tell us, honest to goodness, folks that voted for you that have half a mind, why it is that you can't do the things you said you were going to do, i.e. the wall, my taxes, well, maybe we respect you a little bit more. And remember this, Donald Trump. Be good to your friends. Be good to your family members. Be good to your loved ones. Be quick to say you're sorry. Be even quicker to accept an apology, especially when that thing your friend, your family member, your loved one has done seems to be so huge, you'll never be able to forget about it, Donald. Because at a time you think not, your friends, your family members, your loved ones, in the adoration of the press, whether it be good or bad, President Trump will depart from you. Hey, remember to vote and wear a condom.